All right, welcome to the Pig and the Pickle Krueger Show. Dieter Kurtenbach in the house. We do a Saturday morning stream looking ahead to the Monday Nighter. Niners and Lions. Will Brock Purdy play? Should Brock Purdy play? Man, I think the Niners are making the wrong call here. Let's talk about it right here. All right, we get it rolling on a Saturday. Happy December the 28th. If you're watching a little college football, Nebraska's up 13-0 on Boston College. Take a look at these Nebraska defensive linemen. Hy Robinson, Nutmacher. Nebraska's got some good players for the draft.
Yeah.
Niner fans, for sure. Well, welcome to the Krueger Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Also, this live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. We've done it. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does is automatically entered into win a free signed Ricky Pearsall jersey.
Hey, now
we'll announce the winner on Super Bowl Sunday. Ricky Pearsall autographed jersey. Two names, a first name and a last name. One for the first catch he's made. So one for the second catch he's made. No, I'm just joking. But there you go. Ricky Pearsall's number 14.
One for each time he lined up offsides.
Yeah, exactly. One for every penalty that he's cost the 49ers this year. There you go. Welcome to the Krueger Show. All right, get that out of here. Let's talk some football. Dieter Kurtenbach in the house. Of course, you can catch him on KMBR 680, and you can read him in the San Jose Mercury News.
So I've been
yes, and he looks remarkably fresh for having multiple babies in his house last night.
Yes,
a baby sleepover.
2-year-old sleepover. Just all-time terrible. Sounds like a great emo band name and also an all-time terrible life decision. So that's how I live my life, Larry. And that way I can relate to the 49ers. I just make bad decision after bad decision, and then I can get into the mind space,
There you go. It's like that commercial. Want to get away?
Yes.
They drop off the kid, and all of a sudden the door closes. Want to get away?
I've considered alcoholism, but I haven't gotten quite there yet. So we'll see. We'll see in due time, my friend.
It's hard to be productive that way, but yeah, those are the challenges.
Some people do it. Mad respect.
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit about alcoholism. No, let's talk a little bit about.
This is actually an right.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Niners and the train wreck season that it's been. Now, the Niners and Lions go Monday night. The Niners, Kyle Shanahan spoke the other day. They're shutting down Trent Williams for the year.
Right.
They're shutting down Dre Greenlaw for the year.
That's
so
right.
They have the ability to shut guys down for the year who, do we really believe that Trent Williams still has an ankle sprain?
Yes. He has a bone bruise on his ankle. That thing is I asked, that's a legit son-bitch injury.
Okay.
Like that thing is bothering him big time.
But it's been weeks. He hasn't played. When was the last time he played?
He didn't play going into Green Bay, right? So it would have been Seattle.
So today was Super Bowl. If Monday was Super Bowl Sunday, could he go?
Yeah, because they tore all the bejesus out of him. But that thing's nasty. I've heard it's nasty. So
he's not going. Greenlaw's not going, but Purdy is going.
Yeah.
And Purdy's going behind a line that won't include the starting left tackle or the number 2 left tackle. It's going to be a guy that Kyle Shanahan can't even name, won't even remember.
Right.
Should the 49ers
he'll remember him come Monday night after he lets his quarterback die.
Well,
remember him then.
They say Kyle Shanahan is really stubborn. And, sometimes I want to defend him because I think he gets unfairly maligned considering all the success he's had.
Absolutely.
But how do you defend this? How do you defend playing your franchise quarterback in week 17 and 18, where for a team that is going nowhere, behind a line that's been bad when it was at full throttle, and now is going to be got to be one of the worst lines in pro football?
Oh yeah.
There's no Ayuk. There's no CMC. Debo is unless he's
not last
auditioning
week.
for unless he's auditioning for Mike McDaniel, he's done.
I
so
could
last
be your
week, and
Tyreek Hill.
can he put 2 weeks together? We'll see. But I mean, do you see what I'm saying here?
Oh yeah, no,
Kyle Shanahan is so stubborn that he's like, I want to play this guy, and I'm going to put him out there. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go through the scenarios. He goes out there and he plays great. What do you get out of it? Nothing, other than Brock looks really good. But he's is that going to help you next year? I don't think so.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I just don't think that's helping you next year.
Well, let me throw this your way, Larry, or you can go through the scenarios.
To me, it's just like, okay, what's the upside? What's the downside? What's the you're not doing your job if you don't measure risk reward. That's the job of a football coach.
I get that.
The sport is inherently dangerous. We know that. It's like if you really want to keep him healthy, don't ever play him at all. I get that.
Yeah.
But you're not playing for anything, and you're risking next year in the process. And I don't think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are going that good where they can throw away next year right now. If you told me that the 49ers are going to be horseshit next year, that's a problem.
Yeah,
that is a problem. And I don't know that they will be here the year after if they're really bad next year. So why would you take a chance with Brock Purdy this year at the end of the year behind this line? And you know what's going to happen. I mean, the rips are not going to come from me. The rips are going to come from all Niner fans, Brock's agent, other players around the league, media people around the league, the national media. This is not just going to be the 5 media people covering the Niners are going to ask tough questions. You're going to get raked, absolutely raked. If you get Brock Purdy hurt in a meaningless game, one start before he's supposed to get paid his big contract, that is a really bad look. So I'll say this. The 49ers cannot afford to sign any more injured players to big money long-term deals. Can we agree to that?
I mean, yeah.
Ayuk, big money long-term deal, hurt.
Well, he got hurt after he signed the deal, to be fair.
No, but I know, but he's hurt.
Yeah.
He's hurt.
He plays football for a living.
Debo is not the same player.
Yeah.
You got him signed up long-term. You just signed up Trent Williams.
Yeah.
What's he going to give you?
Right.
You just signed up CMC.
Yeah.
What's he going to give you? You can't afford to keep paying contract extensions to broken old players.
Yep.
And if you then get Brock Purdy hurt because he winds up playing in a meaningless game behind a bad line, when you had the option to play other guys, it's Larry Krueger is not who you're going to have to worry about. You're going to have to worry because the Nick Wrights of the world are coming for you in a big way, and it won't just be him. It will be players that said that Shanahan and Lynch put Brock in harm's way. It will be all kinds of national media that will come down. Could you imagine if he breaks and you don't pay him, you look horrible. If he breaks and you pay him, you've done the wrong thing for your football team. So you don't want him to break, whether either way. And it's just, to me, it is so unbelievable that they would consider putting him out there. For what? For what? So maybe the Detroit Lions on their road to the NFC Championship game, don't get revenge and don't beat you up. I mean, the only way this goes well is if Brock plays pretty well, this line stands up, they, fight and claw and give Detroit all they want, and he emerges unscathed.
Right.
But that's the only way they win. If he gets hurt, they will absolutely get dragged.
Yeah.
And they probably deserve it.
Should Fred Warner play in this game?
No.
Okay.
And here's the standard. You just asked the question.
Play?
Here's the answer. Anybody who the line would move if they don't play should not play in meaningless games in week 16 or 17. You already will start next year without Brandon Ayuk. Is that not enough? Do you need to start next year with no Bosa, no Warner, no Purdy? Is that the game? Is that the plan of week 16 and week 17?
I feel like Kittle's a half a point player these days too.
I'm just saying, if your presence in the lineup would change the betting line,
that's a good standard.
I think you probably should not play in meaningless games. And here's the thing: I need to find out more about him. Why couldn't you have found out about him in the first 16 games?
Yeah, no, I get that. I get
the first
that.
15 games.
Let me counter it with this: Detroit is a marvelous measuring stick for Kyle Shanahan and this offense, in that they run more man-to-man than anybody else in the league. They're a strictly cover one team. And while their defense is unbelievably injured to the point where it's unrecognizable from earlier this campaign, they're still running the same stuff. This is a team in the 49ers that needs to prove that they can beat man-to-man defenses. They need to prove it. This is their last chance to really honestly do it. And they haven't yet. You say you need to see more. It's because they haven't shown that they can beat man-to-man press outside coverage at all this year. And any team that has a defensive coordinator worth even half of his salary has just copied that game plan and pushed it into their week, even if they don't have the personnel to do it. I look at Jonathan Gannon back in week 5. They don't have the personnel to play press man-to-man on the outside. And Gannon's like, we're doing it because that's the way you beat the 49ers. And sure enough, they beat the 49ers. And I know it takes two to tango and the offense has to do something for the other team. But ultimately, you need to find out if this team can evolve or if it has the ability to adapt to the circumstances at hand, because it has yet to do that throughout this season. And to just throw Josh Dobbs in there, just throw, or Brandon Allen, heaven forbid, or Taylor, Mordecai, if we're so inclined, to throw out, an NFL Europe roster, because that's effectively what you're saying at this point with all of the backups this team's already playing on top of the backups of their backups, because those other guys are injured. And anyone who's of quality, we're benching because, hey, why risk it? You're missing an opportunity to create just a bit. I'm not trying to overblow it, but a bit of momentum for next season. And you shut everybody down for week 18. But these guys are contracted to play professional football. I think there's an opportunity available. I mean, yeah, they are.
Well, okay. This is like easy. I mean, if this were a Lincoln Douglas High School debate, I mean, it would be the easiest counter of all time. Last year in week 18, did they play Brock Purdy?
Well, that's
no, because it didn't matter. It didn't matter, right?
It didn't.
That's
matter
why they
in this.
It didn't matter. They played.
Nothing positive could have been gleaned. Nothing positive could have been gleaned.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
I disagree that nothing positive can be gleaned from this game.
Well, nothing positive could be gleaned. What do you mean? Why could nothing positive
that
be
there's
gleaned?
nothing. If Brock Purdy goes out and throws for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, you're saying that doesn't matter. I understand that on the standings it doesn't matter, but I do think that means something for the 2025 49ers if Brock Purdy can absolutely rip one against the Detroit Lions.
But they just sat him last year in week 18.
Correct, but they still have one more game in which to sit him.
Okay, but I mean, let's just assume, because Kyle said he's going to play 2 games. I mean, Kyle's like this week, he's going to play 2 games. If you would sit him last year when there was something to be gained, right? Because last year you have playoffs coming up and it's all about fine tuning. And if you're talking about getting into a rhythm and a positive this or that, why wouldn't you play him in week 18? Because there was nothing to be gained and a lot to be lost. And that's why he didn't play in week 18 last year. And that's why he should not play in week 17 or 18 this year. I would say to Kyle Shanahan is, where's the consistency? There's no consistency there. There really isn't. Last year, you're resting him.
The formula is fundamentally different. We're going to go back to what you said, which I agree with 100%. There's a risk-reward calculation that is the job of a professional football coach.
There was more reward last year than risk last year, and they actually didn't play him. This year, there's more risk than reward.
Complete opposite, in my opinion. The reward of winning week 18 is nothing. The risk of losing Brock Purdy in Week 18 is uncountable. That you lost your quarterback in Week 18 in a meaningless game. That's an incalculable risk. The risk
Dieter,
in playing,
you can lose a player you could lose a player.
They did.
We've seen players.
Last year they lost Cleve Farrell, and then they didn't have anyone who could set an edge for the playoffs.
Yeah, they also lost Dre Greenlaw.
Right.
And they didn't get to play him because he had a February injury, and they lost him for this year. You can't lose Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner and George Kittle for next year.
I mean,
you're not.
Why not just tell the NFL then, hey, we're going to forfeit the game. Don't bother showing up.
Because you can play other guys. And in fact, you should play other guys because guess what happens? They're already a top-heavy roster. You've already asked your top-end players to do way too much already.
Right.
How about play their backup so you can find out if they're any good? We haven't seen Jalen Graham. We haven't seen Tanner Mordecai. We haven't seen Jacob Cowing. We're not seeing Ricky Pearsall.
Amongst all of these things that we haven't seen, doesn't it tell you a little bit something that we haven't seen those guys yet? It's not as if there hasn't been opportunity. There's been immense opportunity.
It doesn't necessarily indicate anything, really, because we didn't see Aaron Banks as a rookie, and he wound up being a pretty decent player. I mean, you can debate how good, but he's a starting left guard in the NFL. He didn't play as a rookie. The point is that risk reward is a part of your value proposition for everything that you do as a football coach.
I understand that you don't see the reward, and I'm not going to be able to convince you of the reward of playing in this game.
The reward.
Yeah, that's evident. I see reward in Brock Purdy against man-to-man coverage against Detroit and developing something, getting something going at the end of this season, because that was, you think back to what they were saying after the Rams game. Hey, we got to get something going here for next year. We're going to find out who wants to be a 49er next year. They got to get some momentum with these scrubs that they got going on, and the Stars have to lead the way in that regard. And frankly, there's no momentum whatsoever on the offensive side. So to just shut it down before you even you have two more opportunities to get it done, to show something that you have some versatility as an offensive scheme. And by the way, this is as much, if not more so, for Kyle than it is for Brock. Kyle has to show that he can adapt to the way that defenses are handling his team. It is a lot about the talent on the field and all the injuries and all that. I get that. But he has to show that he can scheme his way out of a hole. And he's going to have a much harder time doing that without Brock Purdy. And frankly, Brock Purdy needs to show that the game isn't too fast for him, because he's Benjamin Buttoning his career right now, where everything looks like it's going too fast. After when he came in, everything looked like it was in slow motion. These guys have a lot to prove.
You're putting so much to prove behind a line that's really bad. We're just going to get into this game, and you're going to be like, well, he didn't play well, but he was playing behind Austin Pleasance, and he was running for his life. Okay.
Now, who is Austin Pleasance?
He's just a backup left tackle who's probably going to be protecting Brock's blind side. He's a guy who was signed literally like 10 days ago, who's going to be playing the most crucial position, blocking the franchise quarterback. I just think the 49ers, I mean, come on, think about what's to gain here. You got nothing to gain. You're not beating this team. You're not getting anything going. The receivers that he's throwing to might not even be his receivers. The line he's playing behind certainly will not be the line. And it's like, you didn't play guys in week 18 last year. Why? Because there was nothing to be gained, and there's nothing to be gained here, really. And yet you could argue that you could argue there was more to be gained last year because you had meaningful games coming up in a week, in 10 days. You're not going to have meaningful games again until September 2nd or 3rd of next year.
But you don't have this large tactical question. You don't have this overarching
team. You have the team that you're going to be playing. The team that you're going to have next year, you're going to actually have time in the spring and summer to get on the same page. I just don't believe in this. Like, you know what? You totally underachieved, but now you're going to be incredible growth in these garbage time games. I'm seeing coaching and playing around a really bad line, which, theoretically he won't do when he's got a better line. So it's like, if you're not going to run the ball ever on second and goal from the 4, third and goal from the 4, that's what you're going to do next year? No, but that's what he's doing this year. Why? Because his line is really, really bad. So since you're coaching around your line and you're about to pay your quarterback franchise money, doesn't it make sense to not expose him to a crushing? I mean, these two teams have real intent. Arizona's really playing. Detroit's really playing. The Niners haven't really played in a while. They're not really playing. They're trying to get to the finish line. They're 1-2-3 Cancun. They're formulating their departure plan. I get it. You play 17 games and it's about your code and this and that. And that's fine. That's why you play hard, and that's why you always play as hard as you can. But find out about the rest of your roster. If Brock Purdy plays bad in this game, are you not signing him? No, you're still signing him. If he plays awesome in this game, are you signing him? Are you super excited about signing him? I mean, it's like you're signing him. He's getting an extension either way. So it's like, and are we really going to sit there and be like, hey, yeah, we got some momentum going last year against Detroit. I think Detroit. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I see a beatdown coming.
I absolutely see a beatdown.
28 to 10, something like that. Maybe 38 to 10. I see a beatdown coming. So
yeah,
why would I subject my quarterback to a beatdown?
Imagine, but that first off, you can't enter a week with that intent, with that belief. You have to go in believing you can win the game and find ways in which to win the game. But Kyle Shanahan
runs on 3rd and long to avoid hits to his quarterback, but he's going to put his quarterback out there in harm's way behind Austin Pleasance.
Austin Pleasance might kick ass. I mean, that's the stupidest thing I've said on the stream. But
you see what I'm saying, though.
I understand. I'm not disagreeing with.
I'm not
saying that you're like completely off base or anything. I just think that there is something to be gleaned, and in that, is the risk worth the reward? No. But is there a certain level of professionalism that needs to be exhibited at this level? Absolutely. And I think that taking your hands completely off the rope here and just saying, oh, it's a lost cause, let's play our total scrubs, would not be good for morale or culture. And by the way, it's not as if this culture is rock solid right now. I'm not saying that Kyle's lost any rooms or that this organization is off the rails, but like they had a dude quit halfway through a flipping game. Like they don't have a lot of ground to stand on right now as it pertains to culture. I mean, Devondre Campbell saw the logic in your words here, Larry, and said, I'm fucking out of here. I'm done. Why bother?
He's a loser, but he never bought into the culture. He's an outsider who never was part of the 49ers. He didn't understand the culture.
What does it say to throw a game before you go in? Isn't that loser mentality?
Okay, so let me just say this, Dieter. So we play the game Monday night.
Yeah.
Brock plays. He plays 4 quarters.
Right.
He gets keyholed in the 4th quarter. He rips out the ACL. Fans are now losing it. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday
what's
night,
the score?
Friday night.
What's the score?
I don't know. I don't know what the score is. They're losing.
That matters because
they're losing. They're losing. They're losing. We just told you what the score is going to be. It's going to be 28-3.
Okay, then he should be out of the game.
Okay, but he's not out of the game. He's in the game. He's playing. He's playing the game
that he played in the game to begin. It's the air is that he was still in the game when they had no chance of winning.
Okay, he tears the ACL in the 2nd quarter. It doesn't matter. Okay. It doesn't matter if he's in there in the 4th quarter.
I think it's important if we're going to be.
So he tears the ACL. The fans are losing their S. They are blitzing and bruising Kyle Shanahan.
Sure.
Mike Holler says, Dieter, I need you to fill in Thursday night.
You're going to come out at 6 a.m. the next morning.
You're coming out and you're saying, you know what? Yes, Brock is done for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Brock is done for next year.
Mm-hmm.
It was the right move, and here's why. 808 KMBR.
Yeah.
That's what you're going with.
I'm telling you that right now. Why would I change my tune after what I know would be the worst case scenario?
Because it would be met with an unbelievable mountain of opposition.
We get to play revisionist history, except for you. That's the thing. I'm not going to lie.
It's not revisionist history, though. It's not revisionist history.
It'd be revisionist history for every single person calling in and saying, hey, this was stupid. They should have never played him in the first place. You only say that after the worst case scenario happens. But I never get to see the best case scenario.
Here we go. This guy, Dusty Golds, has saved Brock from Kyle.
Fuck off. Like, this is ridiculous. Now Brock
Michael
is a
says
victim.
Brock should be shut down.
Yeah. Well, listen, Larry, I feel like you might have primed him here a bit.
Well, I mean, what's to be gained?
Some semblance of offensive competency heading into 2025.
Really?
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, first off, you don't have Ayuk, as you've noted multiple times over. So who's going to be your X receiver next year? Is it still Jawan Jennings? Or is it probably going to be Ricky Pearsall?
Wouldn't you agree that football teams are not the same year after year?
Of course they are.
There's going to be probably, there's 53 guys on the roster. There's probably going to be like 20 new players next year.
Yeah, no doubt about
it. That's a totally different team. So I don't know.
Wouldn't you want some chemistry with the guys who carried over? Wouldn't you want to have something to point to and say, "Hey, this is when we did it right"? Because I don't think they have that right now.
You have to evaluate before you go into these games. Do you think you can get that out of these games? And I don't.
Well,
that's
not a conversation about Brock and this. That's then a conversation about Kyle being incapable.
I just don't think they can get it going against a Lions team that has this line, this weapons, the way they're rolling.
This Lions defense stinks. Their issue is the scheme that they're going against. This Lions defense has given up points in bunches.
Wait a second. The 2 weeks ago, the Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was harassed and harangued into 4 turnovers. The 49er defense didn't sack him once.
Oh, I'm not implying in any way that the 49ers can stop the Lions. I'm just saying that the Niners can get into a shootout here.
But they couldn't, like the same Tua that couldn't do anything the week before against Houston did whatever he wanted against the 49ers. So I don't know. I don't see the momentum coming on the D. I mean,
of course,
you're not playing Greenlaw. You're not good against the run. I mean,
you're saying
really
things
not
that we already know, but like, where's the same energy for then shutting down Bosa, shutting down Warner, shutting down Kittle? Why is it just Brock?
No, I mean, I titled it Brock just because there's only so many words. But my point would be, what I told you the standard. If the line moves because of your presence or lack thereof, you should not be playing in meaningless games at the end of the year. I mean, you're risking next year for nothing this year, or for what you're saying is momentum this year that's somehow going to carry forward on a team that will have 20 plus new players next year.
Let's get like
that is enough to justify losing Bosa, losing Kittle, because you could make an argument. I mean, you would probably make this argument, Dieter, that if the 49ers lost Kittle and Bosa, that they don't really have a chance next year. I mean, I don't think you would be riding there going to the Super Bowl. So why would you take that risk? Why would you risk them this year if you wouldn't know that you wouldn't go to the Super Bowl next year without them? And all in the name of maybe get a little momentum against man coverage. I
have no issue with shutting down Kittle or Warner because I know they have injuries, or Bosa. I'm surprised any 3 of those are playing. I agree with you on that premise, but I'm not shutting down my quarterback who claims he's healthy on the basis of, our team around him sucks so bad that we can't get any appreciable data out of this game. And I'm looking particularly at a wide receiver core where you're going to have to be relying on some of these guys next year. And you're going to have to be relying on, in all likelihood, given Christian McCaffrey's health history, some of these running backs next year. Maybe at least just Garendo. And I want to see if I can get anything going, if I can get anything that I can work with here, or if I now know going into this offseason, okay, Brock cannot under any circumstances win against man coverage. And Garendo is not the guy, full stop. Like, we cannot trust him to be our number 1 should McCaffrey go down, which he's probably going to do. And Ricky Pearsall, just like Larry says, sucks. He's terrible. We gave him every opportunity as a rookie. I know that it was tough circumstances, but we can't trust this guy going forward. That's appreciable data for a team that needs to do a very detailed and challenging reset. You need to know with certainty if these guys have it or not, because there are going to be young players on this team who have already been trusted, who are certainly going to get even a larger role next year. You need to know. And Brock Purdy's one of them.
Have you made your decision on Brock Purdy yet?
There's certainly, they're in 100% in on Brock Purdy, but there is dollars and cents.
Have you made your decision on Brock Purdy yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Are you in on Brock Purdy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, then what are we doing here?
Figuring out how much he costs.
Okay, so if he plays and
I just love how everybody out here is like, oh, they couldn't possibly pay Brock all this money. And now when Brock has an opportunity to make himself some money or lose himself some money, they don't want to see it. Is this not a great litmus test for how much Brock Purdy is worth this game, these next two games?
Here's the question, though. If Brock Purdy plays in this game and plays awesome, obviously you're going to sign him. And you're already leaning towards signing him. You just said it.
It's not.
The 49ers are already leaning towards signing. They've already said it.
Right.
So if he plays great in this game, nothing changes. They're going to play. They're going to sign him.
Yeah.
What if he plays awful in this game? Are you not going to sign him?
No, but now I don't have to offer him as much money. Now I have a little.
So now you're not going to sign him, but you're not going to offer him as much money because he maybe didn't play well.
No, because now it's
behind a bad hurt line.
No, it's a legitimate. Yes.
Let me ask you one more question. More question. If he plays and suffers a catastrophic injury, are you still going to sign him?
No.
Then why would you play him then? Why would you play him then?
Because he's under
in a
contract
game that
to play
there's
quarterback.
Nothing to be gained. Why would you play
There's
him
so
then?
much to be gained.
He's your franchise quarterback.
Is he?
You just said you're going to sign him.
Why are we having a conversation about him then?
But if he gets hurt, you're not going to sign him. So
he still has another year on his contract. You wait a year.
But why would you take that risk? Why would you take that risk?
Every game's
but there's something to be gained. Risk reward, right?
I don't understand.
Reward? You've outlined the reward as getting better against man coverage and feeling good for next year. Yeah. I'm outlining the risk as he could get seriously hurt. And my point is, if he's going to get serious, if you've already decided to pay him, okay, I think they have, and I have too. You're going to have to come up to some number. But now the guy played and led you into a Super Bowl. He's led you to 2 straight NFC championship games in a year where you got all kinds of guys on injured reserve, 5 linemen, your best running back, your offensive player of the year, your best receiver.
That's reality in the NFL. Sorry, it ain't always going to work out. You're a $60 million quarterback.
But all these
Figure
guys,
it out.
All these guys are not playing, and you're still going to put him out there? And then you're going to evaluate him? You're going to evaluate him concretely and pay him? I mean, don't you think his agent is going to come back and say, hey, man, this guy played really, really good earlier. Yeah. You're gonna tell me you're not paying him because in week 16 or 17 against the Detroit Lions in their championship year potentially, he didn't play well in a game behind the a really bad line without his top weapon. I mean,
100%, Larry, because of exactly what every 49ers fan has been telling me for years. Oh, well, if we pay Brock, then we can't possibly get good talent around him.
But you just said you're not paying him if he gets hurt.
If he gets, why would I pay someone who's hurt?
I mean,
if he was an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year, it'd be a really big issue. But he isn't. He still has
he's literally on his way to the bank to get the money out right now. In the greater scheme of things, he's literally on his way to the bank.
Yes,
he's already gotten the loan. It's been approved. They've told him what date he's getting the money. He's getting the money. He's literally on his way to the bank, and on his way to the bank,
where's his agent saying we're not playing?
You're going to say, hey, you know what, Brock, you're on your way to the bank.
Yeah.
But how about ride a motorcycle with no helmet and go 150 miles an hour to get to that bank? Yep. And it's like, dude, what does anybody with any reasonable person would say that's too much risk for what you have to gain.
Then
the
Brock
49ers themselves are not going to sign Brock Purdy or anybody else to an extension until the day they're going to take the field at training camp. Why? Because they're hedging. They're hedging on their money. They don't want to pay a guy in May, even though he could show up in July. They'd rather pay him July 9th right before he goes out on the field. Why?
Right.
Because May to July, he could get hurt and you're exposed. It's called exposure. You have your exposure there and you're exposed and you're vulnerable. Isn't that Brock right now? He's 100%. Vulnerable behind this bad line. And
how's that the Niners' problem?
He's their franchise quarterback.
Not until he signs.
He's their franchise quarterback. He's the best quarterback they have, Dieter. He's their 100%. Only chance of going to the Super Bowl. 100%. You don't think they're having an investment in him not getting hurt?
My argument is that's on Brock Purdy to protect himself. They're not telling him to drive to the bank. He wants to go 150 miles per hour with no helmet. That's fine. Where's Brock Purdy's agent right now saying he shouldn't play in this game? Where's Brock Purdy looking for some self-protection here?
Dude, name me one guy who's ever done that. It's not on Brock. Dude, you're totally wrong. It's not on Brock to protect himself. It's on the 49ers to protect Brock. They just said they have to protect Greenlaw from himself. You're going to, the same way you got to protect Greenlaw from himself is the same way you got to protect Purdy from himself, because these guys are warriors. These guys will play. These guys will break. You have a vested interest in seeing them not break. Whatever. I can't go. This is a circular argument. We're not going to see eye to eye on this. I don't understand I think you're being as stubborn as Kyle Shanahan. And you know what? When everybody is raining down hate, potentially in like 5 days on the entire regime for getting Brock Purdy hurt one game before he was going to be paid, there is going to be massive, massive criticism. And it's not just going to come from me.
I would like to note that I don't give a flying fuck what the external criticism is. I provide my criticism. Like I'm not.
No, you won't be able to criticize. You're not going to be able to, because
I'm standing on my Brock. I totally.
You're going to have to sit there and say, "I thought this is the right move."
Correct.
Yeah. But you do realize they're playing the Lions. The Lions are out for blood. The Lions are going to get a big lead because they can score lots of points. There is going to be a ton of pressure on Brock in the second half of the game, and he is going to be operating behind a bad line. So the odds of him getting hurt in this game and in the next two games are pretty high. So this scenario of like, wow, Krug, you're painting this picture of, a doomsday. It's not just a doomsday. It's reality. And George Kittle said it yesterday in the locker room. And Brock said it at the podium. He's like, guess what? These guys are coming for us. These guys are trying to blow us out, and they're going to try to absolutely, tear us apart. And we have to be ready for it. And they have to be ready for it. And if you're playing Brock Purdy to not get blown out in week 17 by the Lions, that's, really now you're going to potentially hurt yourself further. To just not get blown out in a meaningless game. I agree. You don't want to get blown out. And I agree that you're probably less likely to get blown out if Brock plays. Oh, yeah. But that should not be the priority when you're out of the playoffs on December 28th. The priority should be Brock's already played too many games. Brock's already given at the office. What you need to do is you need to find out. Are you bringing back Dobbs? Are you bringing back Allen? Can they play? Are you is Tanner Mordecai something or nothing? Nothing about those guys because they haven't played. And I don't know. By
your own logic, you'll never be able to find out anything because there's nothing to be gleaned. Oh, you'll have this terrible offensive line. It's not a fair scenario for them.
Well, yeah, it's not ideal, but I mean that is a scenario that every rookie quarterback faces, right? Because every rookie quarterback doesn't play until the preseason
is playing
in the second half. So you're playing in the second half of a preseason game, Dieter. So you're always playing behind bad guys. That is the rule of thumb in the NFL. You jump in as an undrafted guy or a late round guy you play in the second half of preseason games behind third and fourth stringers and guys who aren't going to play. Yeah. That's your downside is you're playing behind with those guys. Your upside is you're playing against those guys, right? So you're going to be able to prove that what you got against guys who might be future construction workers. but you're also maybe being protected by future construction workers. It's just that's why you see a lot more random
How is
stuff.
that not also true for a $60 million quarterback when you're in a salary cap league? The argument that I've heard time and time again, Larry, is that, we won't be able to get good players around Brock. Wouldn't it be interesting to know if the guy you're about to pay $60 million to can get it done with something beyond patchwork? If he could get it done?
You don't think we've gotten that answer? This guy's already won games without his weapons. He's won games this year without.
I think fact that we talk
good
about
this year,
I
but
think
they
the fact
wasn't
that he
because
doesn't
of
have
Brock.
a contract tells us that we don't have that answer yet, because there's no limitation on giving Brock Purdy having that contract locked in now. There's no limitation. I clearly every week we come on and we have the same conversation about, Brock Purdy, here's his contract. I got pages of OTC contracts. I'm studying Dak Prescott's deal inside and out. Clearly, there are still questions. 3 weeks ago, I wrote a column saying the last 5 games of the season is a referendum on Brock Purdy. They're going to pay him. The question is how much and how does everyone feel about it? And now, apparently, after 3 games in which he's looked good in 1 of them, in 2 of them he's looked awful, apparently that's now enough to, hey, shut him down. We've seen enough. I don't think that's the case at all. I have plenty more that I want to see from Brock Purdy. And if the scenario is shitty, welcome to real life.
All I want to see is, you're very consistent, but I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from my football team. Here's why.
Yeah.
Because where's the consistency? There is no consistency in that. It's like Brock has already shown us everything we need to see. We're going to sign him to our contract. John Lynch went on KMBR 3 weeks ago, and with everybody listening said, Brock's our guy.
Yeah.
So they've made it perfectly clear that Brock's their guy. Well, if that's a statement that says we have done our evaluation, Brock's our guy. If you've done your evaluation, then why are you putting him out there in week 16 and 17 to still evaluate him when you've already done your evaluation? You've already told us you've done the evaluation.
I'll give you that.
Now you're telling us he needs to play so we can further evaluate him. So either you've done the evaluation or you have not done the evaluation. He either needs to play to prove something to you or he doesn't need to play to prove something to you. And they're saying both. There's no consistency there. We want him to play the whole schedule, but we've already evaluated him and we're paying. We're going to extend him and we're going to extend him this offseason, and it's all been decided. Well, if it's been decided, then what are we evaluating then? Then why is he playing? Why wouldn't you? Then shouldn't you have already evaluated him if you've said you did? Well,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know about it, Larry. Sometimes John Lynch goes on KMBR and lies. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, there's just it's like, once again, multiple masters serving multiple masters. It's like, what are we doing here?
The complex.
Are you trying to pad your win stats or are you trying to win championships? Because here's my philosophy. Go as hard as you can to win a championship. And when that championship is no longer a possibility, that's life. Yep. And you know what you do then? You go as hard as you can to win the next championship. That, to me, makes perfect sense. So I'm all about doing everything in my power and having every player and every coach and every scout and everybody do everything in their power to try to win. But once we can't win, put it away. Let's take a look at our roster, because guess what? There's real value there's real benefit in evaluating your roster. If the 49ers...
And I want to see it with my franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and here's the thing on that. If the 49ers never got a chance to see Brock Purdy at the end of the 2022 season, they never would have had any plans for Brock Purdy going into the next year. And that would have been a bad mistake. So it's really important. I'm not saying Tanner Mordecai is Brock Purdy. I don't believe that he is.
No.
But I do believe that he's got enough, since he's shown, I think already, just at practice, that he's got the best arm of the quarterbacks and he has the best foot speed of the quarterbacks. I would like to see him play just, once in a game, maybe even for a half.
And I think that you can get that shot when they're down 21-0 at the end of the first half on Monday.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I'm going to. Do you?
No, you're right. No, I don't think we will.
No, he's not even going to be active.
I'm with you that they should have a very high threshold of leniency for get these guys the fuck out of here, which is easier said than done when you have to, carry 48 on a day, all that they should pull the plug very early and not. You're already taking a risk. I'm very aware that this is a risk. It's a risk that I'm willing to take to a point when the game is clearly not in your favor. Nothing's going. It's not happening. You got to get them the fuck out of there. It's the same calculus you run as going back to your analogy in the preseason. Okay, you had 2 drives, nothing went on. Let's get them the hell out of here, right? And some teams don't even bother. Some teams don't even die. I like seeing starters in the preseason. I think the risk is worth the reward. This is preseason to me. This is the same thing. Let's get a little something going. Let's see if this guy can work with this guy. Oh, it works great on the practice field. Well, I don't see it during games. Let's see it once during a game. And then once we see it, maybe then you can say, okay, hey, we can win this game. That's something. Let's go for wins. Let's go for culture, positivity, all that. And if we're getting our asses kicked because our defense can't stop a nosebleed right now, and, hey, we're not actually in a shootout here with Amon-Ra St. Brown and the Lions and Ben Johnson, then you pull Brock and you don't put him out there again. And I don't know what the hell you do in week 18, but you worry about, we can have this conversation again in week 18. But Monday Night Football, a chance for Brock Purdy to shut everyone up by having a big game, by making this, it's a PR play as much as anything, making this thing seem like it's actually going okay. Because you say, oh, the Nick Wrights are going to be on you. These sons of bitches are already on him every day. Every day it's a referendum on Brock Purdy. Let's get some momentum. Let's get some positivity going. And if it ain't going to show up, then get him the hell out of there, because you're right. You're right on a lot of the stuff, but he's got to start the damn game.
It's a good conversation. I mean, you and I are pretty much in agreement on this. It's shades of gray. I mean, we're basically kind of saying the same thing. I'm saying don't play him because he's going to get hurt, and go with Tanner Mordecai so you can find something out. You're saying play him, but as soon as the game gets ragtag, get him out. So I mean, we're basically kind of saying
I'm not interested in Brock.
You're not saying play him 4 quarters of the next 2 games.
Yeah,
you're saying
I don't want this to turn.
Hey,
into
you know
NFL
what?
blitz.
Get him out there. I don't know how long, but if he's, I think you got to see how it's going. I mean, that's where
I'm at.
Yeah. See how it's going. I mean, I personally, I don't see I don't understand. Look at it this way. There's all kinds of times, like in the last 5 years, that I can think of, or since Trent's been here, where we'll be doing a press conference in the training camp, and somebody will ask about, hey man, in this first preseason game, how long is Brock going to play? And this and that. And then somehow, some way, it will get twisted from, hey, how much is Brock going to play, to, well, he'll come out when Trent comes out. Like, as soon as Trent's not in the game, Brock's not going to be in the game. And then all of us, like a bunch of trained SEALs, just sit there nodding. Yeah, oh, it makes total sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Why would you have Brock Purdy in there when you don't have his number 1 bodyguard? And Matt Barrows will go say it in The Athletic, and Dave Lombardi will go say it in The Standard, and Matt Mayoka will go say it to NBC Sports Bay Area. We'll go on KMBR and we'll say it. And everybody will repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and we'll all sound like, and like that was the only answer.
Correct.
That was the only answer. Correct. Like, of course he's not going to play Brock when he doesn't have Trent Williams in there. You don't put, and then there'll be other talk show hosts.
They did do an entire preseason like that this year.
Everybody, I know. Everybody knows, and then you get the everybody knows crowd on the talk shows. Everybody knows you don't put your quarterback out there.
Public perception and criticism, it just doesn't matter, because it's nonsensical.
You don't
whatever will get
put
people
your
attention.
Quarterback out there without Trent, and everybody nods. Oh, yeah. And then here we are late in the year, and it's like all the rules are thrown out the window. It's kind of like
Kyle Shanahan for these games.
It's like a Kyle Shanahan offensive game plan until the other team scores a touchdown. And then it's like, we wanted balance and we wanted to run a certain number of times. Wait a second, we're in a 7-0 hole. Screw that. We're going up top. We're getting these points back now. Absolutely now. So I see inconsistency with Shanahan, and I'm seeing more inconsistency with Shanahan as it relates to this. Okay.
But you will not see inconsistency with Dieter Kurtenbach. I will wear this thing on Monday.
we'll hit another topic. But first, let's go to Better. This live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does is automatically entered into to win a free signed Ricky Pearsall number 14 jersey. We will announce the winner of the Pearsall jersey.
Is that a bit? Is Better doing a bit on you right now?
No. We chose our own jerseys.
That's incredible.
And we're trying to, I know Ricky. If Ricky saw me, he'd be like, "Krug, you rip me all the time." I do, because there are no free rides. There's no free lunch, and you get ripped. You are what you are. Okay. No. So right now you suck and you're a bust. But when you're good and you're playing great, guess what? We also say that too. Yeah. So that's the
new evidence, new opinions. I get it.
Yeah, and like there's all kinds of people back. Why are you ripping Mike Yastrzemski? Well, I'm ripping Mike Yastrzemski because he's no good.
That's an easy one. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, why aren't you saying good things about the Giants? Because the Giants are bad.
Yes.
The Giants are underachieving and they're boring and they're bad.
Correct.
Why are you not saying great things about the Warriors? Because the Warriors.
Have you watched them play basketball?
Steph, the era is over. Steph's almost done and it's over. And it's bad. It's bad. It is what it is. I believe me, when they had KD and they were winning, I said so.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, this live stream
is sponsored by reality.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is I don't have an agenda. My agenda is the same agenda as the fans. I want to win, and I want to win now. If anything, I will freely admit I am impatient.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm even going to live to next week. Okay, so Kyle, sorry if I'm not going to plan for some down the road satisfaction.
But
with
will
the Niners.
Brock Purdy live on Tuesday? We'll find out on national television.
We'll find out. But,
give me George Kittle receptions over, Lair.
Yeah. But this live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does automatically is in a drawing to win the autographed Ricky Pearsall jersey. We'll announce that on Super Bowl Sunday, the Super Bowl Sunday night show. We will, after the game, we'll talk about Buffalo beating Green Bay, and then we'll come in and give away that jersey. So, and that's just my quick thought on the Super Bowl. But let's go to Better. Let's take a look at the lineups this week, as we always do. Niners and Lions. We'll take a look at that one. Dieter, I'll let you pick what guy you want. Is there anybody that you're kind of curious about how Better has their projections for Monday night?
I need to see what my George Kittle number is here, because they're going up again against a cover one team that's man to man. And so there's ample opportunity. And I think that
who will be on Kittle? Branch?
Probably not. He'd have to be the high. That's a hot. The problem is, I would love to tell you, I don't know who the hell plays for the Lions defense anymore. Give me the over on receiving yards on George Kittle. He's beaten man to man all year.
70. He's got to get 70 though. You like that?
It's a lot, but I have to take it.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably on that. Probably on that.
I think we're down on Debo, but can we take a look at some of the Lions lines that we have?
Yeah, well, we definitely have to take one Lion here. So, or if we take two Lions, we have to take one Niner. We just took one Niner. So,
how about a Jameson Williams longest reception?
Okay.
Hopefully it's in there. Oh, 22.5. Safety play has been very. I like the more. I like the more there. How do you feel?
Definitely. Not only that, they're featuring this guy. The other thing is, when you don't have, you also got to think about this thing as far as film and strategizing. When you don't have David Montgomery, that means that you don't have the ability to really punch people in the mouth and run it. So you got to start stretching the field. You're going to have a bunch of people, leaning towards pass coverage. I don't know. To me, there's two things you got to look for in this game. Jameson Williams up top, because I really do believe they're going up top, and Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to absolutely roast them out of the backfield.
As a pass catcher.
As a receiver. Let's see what his receiving numbers look like. Yeah, I mean, 28.5 receiving yards. He's
money.
He's going for 80 receiving yards.
I'll take it with you. I'll ride.
Yeah, that I love the receiving yards because all Goff's got to do is run Jameson Williams deep and flip it in the flat to Jahmyr Gibbs.
And we saw it with HN. I mean, they're just going to rip that game plan off.
Yeah.
Can
absolutely.
we get Brock Purdy intact ACLs 2? Can we get that more than 1.5 on
Let's take a look at the
ACLs?
Purdy projections, though. Let's see what Purdy's got. Do any of those 300.5 passing yards? If you want to make big money.
That's boosted. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a bad play though.
Against the Lions, their redone secondary
defense is awful. But they can't beat man to man. If they win, they'll win big, and if they lose, they lose.
I like the bottom one there. I like
longest rush at 10.5. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, an 11-yard run when you have
be running.
This. Yeah, I mean, first of all, they're going to be the Lions are going to score, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Niners are going to be, and the Niners are pass happy in 6-3 games.
That's a good one.
So what do you think they're going to be when they're down 17? The run is going to be like, what's that? I don't remember what's a run. It's going to be pass, and then guess where they are, but you can't pass all the time.
3rd and 7. Here you go.
Then all of a sudden it's going to be like pass, and then all those passes are really rush opportunities for us. So yes. I say longest run for Purdy.
It's a great
play. Definitely going to be at least
man-to-man defense. Yards. Guys turning their backs to him. He's eaten on it all year. That's been easy money all year.
Teams play more man against the Niners because what you said before, they don't do well against man, so they get an inordinate percentage of man. And then Purdy, all it takes is one play, somebody to turn their head, give him a lane.
He's going to need to because he's in this entire game. He's going to be like, I got to save my own life.
Well, and then here's the other thing too. What's the first discipline to go on a football team? It's when you have a big lead and guys want sacks. And suddenly, but you're telling them, guys, hey, we need to rush as one. We need to stay in our rush lanes. Screw your rush lanes. I'm getting to the quarterback. If I get 2.5 sacks, 2.5 more sacks, I'm going to be, I'm going to be making millions.
Bonus.
Yeah, I got bonuses. I got money coming in. I got all kinds of. I'm not going to stay home. I'm going after the quarterback. What's the downside? They may bust a big play on us. It's like guys are going to. Defensive linemen are like sharks with blood in the water. And if you give the Lions a 14, 17-point lead, which is totally plausible, guess what? I mean, it's, it's Run City. So there we go.
There we go.
So let's go with it. Those are our wagers on our better wager rundown. Let's wager. Let's see what we got. 4 out of 4, we can win $100. I like that.
Hey now.
I like
Talk
that.
to me, baby.
I think we may actually win here. Yeah,
4
out of 4.
I always feel good about it, though, Lair. I mean, I feel like every time we put together a good ticket, it's just
we've been killing
volatility of parlay.
We have killed it though. We've won. I think you and I might have won 3 times already this year. So 70,
I'm on a heater of all heater on the Land Your Bets podcast. Like unbelievable prop better. I might go pro. That's what I'm saying.
Are you wagering today? By the way, Nebraska's up 13-2.
No, I haven't had any time. I've had toddlers and family, and I just found out who this left tackle guy is. I already forgot his name.
Austin Pleasance.
Thank you. Austin Pleasance. Going to be a not so pleasant day for Brock Purdy.
And I interviewed him the other day. I'm like, hey, Austin, tell us a little bit about yourself. And he's like, man, I'm a total nerd. He's like, Star Wars and all this. I got action figures and I'm like, whoa, bro.
Hey, now.
I couldn't believe it, but you know
ladies,
what? Good
come
dude.
on down.
Good dude. So here it is. Kittle he's got to get 70 receiving yards. Brock Purdy's got to have at least an 11-yard run. Jameson Williams got to have a 23-yard catch.
Yeah.
And Jahmyr Gibbs just has to have 29 total receiving yards.
We're going 23-yard longest catch and not just overall receiving yards for Williams.
He's not a volume guy. I mean, some of his
sorry with Williams. My apologies.
Yeah.
I
mean, if it were Amon-Ra, I would.
Yeah.
I like what I'm seeing out of Jameson as far as that prop. I think
I'm all crossed up. It was a stupid question. We move forward. I love that. I love that.
It's 10-1. We have 10-1 on those 4. So $10 to win 100. So good luck to all of you guys. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does automatically is in the drawing to win the Ricky Pearsall signed jersey. on Super Bowl Sunday night, and we'll announce the winner that night. There it is. Look at that. It's a good-looking jersey.
We'll have a lot of great NFL draft content on Super Bowl Sunday night.
Yes. Okay, a couple more things that I want to get into with you.
I think they should trade Kuminga. Yeah.
Well, I do. Okay, we'll get into that at some point too. We do. I actually want to get your thoughts on a couple things before we get out of here. But Renardo Green.
Yeah.
Renardo Green has the third highest cornerback coverage grade from his draft class and the 12th among all cornerbacks in the NFL. Against Tyreek Hill, he played 8 snaps of coverage. They targeted Tyreek twice. He made 0 catches. He did drop them both, I believe.
About 4, yeah.
Yeah, and then he had
the fine. It didn't ruin my fantasy football championship at all. It was fine. It's fine.
What do you think of Renardo Green as would you say Renardo Green or Dom Puni is the best rookie for the 49ers this year? It's been a great rookie class.
Yeah.
Puni's been the plug-and-play starter at right guard. I think he's kind of regressed a little bit as the season has gone on, where Renardo kind of started slow, and now he's playing at a level that when people say, man, Mooney Ward may walk at the end of the year, Niner fans are just like, yeah, all right, we got Lenore and we got Renardo, and we'll find a third guy. But Renardo looks better than Mooney in some ways, and he was really good. He's looked really good the last month. Is Renardo better? Is he a better player? And I guess a more valuable player because than Puni. Puni's a right guard.
Who can't play tackle, right? This would be the circumstance in which my colleague Cam Inman at the Bay Area News Group has asked me a couple times this year. It's kind of one of his, little pet theories, right? We all have our little things. Let's try them out. And he asked me, is somebody who enjoys line play, do you think Puni could play tackle? And I go, no, because he's not built that way. And there's a reason they put him at guard when he came in here. His mobility, particularly to his right, is very questionable. And so I just didn't see it. But, I mean, I guess in a pinch, you absolutely could. And then, Cam asked Chris Foerster, the offensive line coach, could you? And he gave pretty much the same answer with a lot more detail than I provided. Mine was a little more gut. His was a little more analytical. But if there was ever a week to try Dom Puni at tackle, come on down. This is the week, right? If you thought it was something viable, I got a job for you, Dominic Puni, and they're still not going to do it. So when we're talking value, yeah, right guard versus unquestionably the number one corner on this team this year. Yeah, I'll take the corner in this pass-happy league. What I love so much about Green, this is something I loved from him back at FSU, and one of the reasons why Hutch and I were so high on him is he's a calm player. And I like the calmness and that energy coming off of a number one cornerback or any cornerback, because it is an inherently failing position. You cannot be a good corner. And I mean, there's no more Darrelle Revises, right? Even the best corners in the league, be that Surtain or Juice or Sauce, sorry. Those guys still get got. And they get got a lot more than you'd think, in fact. And they are able to bounce back, but having volatility, emotional volatility at that position is a death sentence. I don't want to see you celebrating when you lock somebody down, and I don't want to see you getting down on yourself when someone gets you. The rules are made for you to lose. And I like the calmness, and it's a calmness that resonates in his play. You just watch him, and there's a competence that just he exudes, and he's physical. He's way twitchier than he gets credit for because he's smooth. And he was a very divisive prospect. I had far more intense than any conversation we had earlier today. Like, I had yelling matches about this guy with people who know personnel and whose opinions I trust with other teams. And they're like, this guy isn't good. And I'm like, then I must be blind. Like, I don't understand how you can say that. Like, we're yelling at each other about this dude. So perhaps some of this answer is me searching for vindication in those conversations. But I think Green has just been marvelous, and you can see him getting better as the season goes along. But he's got everything you could possibly want from somebody holding down that position in the modern NFL. And I thought he did a marvelous job. I mean, even some of the catches that Tyreek had, there's nothing you can do about those. I just very rarely do you see Green truly got like, oh, he messed up here. It happens. It's happened maybe once or twice a game. It happens. But there's a lot of times where someone makes a play on him and you go, not sure what you're supposed to do there, Renardo. Not a fair league, not a fair sport. And he just keeps giving you really solid reps. That's somebody you can bank on. And that's a real positive for a defense that doesn't have a lot of guys like that right now.
Yeah. No, he is a keeper for sure. Interesting. Brian Baldinger this week on 95.7 The Game said, he's talking about Jake Brendel. He said, I think they have to upgrade the center. I say this to offensive line coaches, and I would say this to Chris Forster as well. Yeah. And I respect Chris Forster. I think Chris is an excellent coach, but I would say that if your center isn't strong, your offensive line is never going to be great.
In his own scheme, absolutely.
This is where we have kind of a little bit of a difference of opinion. I mean, you've got a guy like Baldy who watches film, who was an offensive lineman, who's coming out and saying, I'm watching Jake Brendel, and I don't think Jake Brendel's very good.
I'm with him.
And then you have, Chris Forster, who has said, who's clearly a huge fan of Brendel and is like, Brendel's the best quarterback we have. And he's the best, in like 6 different ways. He's the best guy we have.
Yeah.
And it just seems, and then yes, John Lynch, and John Lynch is like, well, he was asked about Feliciano a month ago, and he's like, well, we really like John Feliciano, and he might be able to get back, but we do have a player that we really like, who's a really good player at center, and Jake Brendel. Jake Brendel was a street free agent. He's about 290. Yes. And he was a Pro Bowl alternate, believe it or not, a couple of years ago.
He actually deserved it that year. He was really good his first.
And it was a couple of years ago at this point now. But he did have a Pro Bowl type year. And now it's like
then he lost the ability to anchor.
I mean, he's never really been strong or anything. He's just kind of he's okay. He's all right. He's not
good 3-cone guy.
I actually kind of think that the future center is either Drake Nugent, who I really do like, or potentially this guy.
We go into
Coach
Atlanta.
Yak is highlighting. This is the newest 49er.
Oh, Hennessy. I like Tennessee a lot. I'm going to a different Falcon, though. This Drew Dahlman that they have at center. My man Hutch is all over him. Can't get enough of him. And
what do you mean?
Drew Dahlman's starting center for the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to be a free agent. And my man Hutch says he's a great player. I'm diving in. I'm looking at him. I go, yeah, this is everything you're looking for. And the Niners, contrary to popular belief, will have some money to toss around, and probably, to maximize at center as opposed to maybe wide receiver or some other defensive end. But I loved Tennessee coming out of school. I remember
at Temple.
I loved him. And
at Temple, he wore a single-digit number, and the way it works at Temple is they only give the single-digit numbers to the true tough guys. They say if you're a super tough guy at Temple in that program, you wear 1 through 9. Yeah. And I don't know what number he wore, but it was a single-digit number. He's made 22 NFL starts, 807 pass blocking snaps. I'm reading this from above. He's allowed 44 pressures, 6 sacks, 96.8 pass blocking efficiency. In 2021, he had the 3rd highest run blocking grade in the NFL at 88.1. He's had knee injuries that have caused him to miss time in 2022 and made him miss all of 2023. But it is interesting because John Lynch on KMBR this week was talking about, the offensive line changes. And he's like, these guys are guys. I mean, these guys were draft picks. And I think it was Lynch who was saying this. Might have been somebody else, but Hennessy was a draft choice. Charlie Heck was like a 4th round pick out of North Carolina.
Yeah.
So, the Niners have been on record as saying they don't believe that you need to invest high picks in the draft. And this probably Dieter goes
changes.
Well, and this goes back. This is an organizational philosophy that goes back to Bob McKittrick. But McKittrick was a Hall of Fame offensive line coach. And I think Chris Forster is a very good offensive line coach. I don't know that I'd put him in the Hall of Fame as far as offensive line coach.
No, but he's good.
Coaches go. But
they bet
McKittrick
a lot on him
McKittrick was truly. I mean, the only guy who was a high pick was Harris Barton. Everybody else was undrafted, late round guys. Jesse Sepulveda was like a 12th round pick back when the draft was 12 rounds long. They never valued offensive linemen. They always signed them off the street, signed them off veterans, never hardly ever invested in the offensive line. So it doesn't really surprise me that here we are and they're kind of in that same mode. Because if you really think about it, the Niners have these trends that are organizational trends that really go beyond the regime. I mean, the Niners have been emphasizing defensive line in the draft
and with free agency.
But I mean, for years. I mean, the Dennis Brown was a product of that. Ted Washington was a product of that. Bryant Young was a product of that. They always went defensive line. They never had enough defensive linemen. They always wanted more. So that's an organizational philosophy. And then their organizational philosophy of we don't draft offensive linemen high is also an organizational philosophy that dates back to previous regimes. So I guess we'll find out. That's two more guys that I would love to see in these final two games. Let's see what Hennessy's got.
Hennessy's a Matt Rule guy.
Yeah, and let's see what Heck's got. Let's put him out there. Why not?
I'm a big fan of Matt Rule guys. I knew Rule back when he was at Temple. He would recruit South Florida when I was handling recruiting down in South Florida. And I know exactly what kind of guys he likes. And he and I saw eye to eye. Big fan of Matt Rule guys. So Hennessy being one of those guys who got recruited to Temple. I think he had already left for Baylor almost immediately afterwards. But there's something there. I don't know about at center, but they need to redo the entirety of the interior of the offensive line, if for no other reason than Brock Purdy is 6'1" on a good day. And you cannot survive in this league with a shorter quarterback if you don't have a good interior offensive line. And it's great that you have a good tackle. And frankly, I don't think Colton McKivitz has been a problem this year. It's great that your strength is on the outside. It's not tenable. So Brendel has to go. I understand why the front office and coaches defend the guy, because he's a high character guy. They can trust him with the game plan, all these things. But at a certain, I see this all the time with, my daughter's peers at daycare, right? Oh, well, everyone thinks their kid's great when you're spending all this time with them at home, but the kid's a shit at daycare, right?
Right.
So is he a good kid? Probably not, because as soon as he's not in that environment, well, then, the evidence points to, they're pinching kids and kicking them and throwing tantrums. Like you got a shitty kid. Oh, but they don't do that much at home. It's great that they're great with you one-on-one, but at a certain point, the tape is what tells the story. And as great as Jake Brendel might be on Monday through Saturday, he sucks on Sundays. And it's something that we were identifying in training camp. He couldn't snap the ball because he was too afraid he couldn't get into his set soon enough. And now he and then he said, oh, well, I got to actually get the ball to the quarterback. And so then he sacrificed being able to get in good position. And the first 5-6 weeks of the season, the man was on his ass more than Brandon Pajemski. It was unbelievable. And it's gotten a little bit better because now he's smart enough and he's able enough to be able to compensate, but he's always giving something up. And lately it's, okay, well, I got to get into my anchor set. Well, now he's not able to explode in the run game like he used to, so he's getting thrown off of plays by defensive tackles. He can't get to the second level anymore. And it's always going to be something. And you're fine making that sacrifice if you have all of these other things going, but at a certain point, it's too much to ask. This entire season is a testament to this guy's a backup. If he was the backup on this team, you go, he's giving you pretty good reps. Because he's the starter on a team that came into a season with Super Bowl expectations, it's delusion to think that this is something that can continue into next year. And I'm sure they'll sell it on, oh, he'll be healthier. He'll be healthier and everything will be fine. This is the wear and tear of playing offensive line in the NFL. No one ever gets healthy. They just survive another year. And you obviously have to make a change at left guard. Pooney is... You lock it in at right, but you have to have some protection for him here. And they need a new center. And I don't mind if you go into next year with the same tackles, but you have to make a change at 2 of the 3 positions. And I think Pooney's an absolute lock to start again next year. So there you go, center and left guard. You need 2 new players there, and those are expensive. So that means you're going to have to put some draft capital in it. And luckily, hell of a draft for that. So looking forward to all those conversations. But Hennessy would be fun to see these next couple of weeks. I'd love to see the Nuge too.
One of the guys that I really love in the draft process, and we'll get into it another time, of course. Yep. But one guy you should take a look at, and that I have marked down as the 49ers center of the future. If it's not Nugent, if it's not this guy Hennessy, right, who it may be. But there's an offensive lineman from Montana State in this draft named Marcus Ware, Wehr. He was a right tackle. He was a defensive end. Then they moved him to offensive line, which I love that. I love when there's defensive linemen who get moved
Garland action.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the best athletes are play defense for the most part. So this guy is definitely a guard. He's got short arms, but great movement skills, former D lineman, 6-year redshirt senior right tackle. He's from Billings, Montana, went to Billings Central Catholic High School in Billings. Class A first-team All-American as a high school senior, led them to the state title. Also earned all-state honors as a junior, started as a defensive end at Montana State, switched to the offensive line in 2022, only penalized in one game in 2023. The motor runs hot. He's a nasty run blocker. He finishes defenders to the ground in the run game. He's got great movement skills for a zone scheme. He can do the reach blocks. He can extend. Excellent mobility to get up, to climb to that second level. Really good quickness that overwhelms linebackers. Started one game at right guard in 2023. Otherwise, they've lined him up at right tackle. But his arm length is not good, so he's going to project as a guard. But the motor runs hot, especially in the run game. He's nasty. He's mean. He's mobile. He gets off the line. He's got quickness. They're saying his ideal fit in the NFL is probably right guard, but he could probably play center. I think he's probably a long-term center. He's allowed 7 pressures over the past 2 seasons playing right tackle and right guard. He's never allowed a sack in his college career. He's 6'4". He's 310 pounds. So 3-year starter. And he was a reserve defensive lineman who was going nowhere. And now he's the best offensive lineman in the Big Sky. He'll play in the Shrine game.
Okay.
And squats 6 bills, 31-inch vert, 375-pound power clean.
Yep.
For first team FCS, first team All-American at right tackle. So he's a big-time player. Marcus Ware.
Marcus Ware.
Yeah, Marcus Ware, Montana State. Probably going to be
spelled differently than the great Marcus Ware.
Yes. Oh, that's DeMarcus Ware, and that is W-A-R-E. This is W-E-I-R-E-H-R. W-E-H-R. Marcus Ware. And he facially he looks a little bit like a Jason Kelsey. Kind of a But he's
I presumed with Billings, Montana, he was a white guy. Just throwing that out there.
He is a white guy. He's a white guy. But he's definitely got some potential. I mean, I love him as a center. I don't know if I love him as much at the other spots. By the way, I got to get your thoughts on Kyle Shanahan. There's an awful lot of criticism about Kyle Shanahan, as there always is.
Yeah.
The one thing I guess I don't want to hear about this year is I don't want to hear about the injuries. Like, don't tell me about the injuries, because the 49ers have 14 players and $36 million of players on the IR. The Lions have 19 players and $52 million worth of cap on the IR. So, you're not the most hurt team. The injuries are not the reason this season was derailed. It was a contributing factor, but I don't want to hear that as a coverall. It's not a coverall. It shouldn't be a coverall.
Okay.
So I bring up Kyle Shanahan with one more loss. If the Niners lose Monday night, Kyle Shanahan will now have 4 seasons with 10-plus losses with the Niners. The only other coaches in the NFL to do that with one team, John McKay, 6 10-loss seasons with the Buccaneers. Bart Starr, 4 with Green Bay. Gus Bradley, 4 with Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you, and by the way, I didn't realize this, but this is pretty interesting. The Niners have been the most Jekyll and Hyde team in all of pro football for like 20-plus years. Going back to since 2003. This is how their season has ended. No playoffs, no playoffs, no playoffs, no playoffs, no playoffs, no playoffs, no playoffs. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of no playoffs. Then they go to the NFC Championship game. Then they go to the Super Bowl. This is all under Harbaugh. Then they go to the NFC Championship game again, 3 years in a row.
Right.
Then they go no playoffs, no playoffs, no playoffs, no playoffs, no playoffs, 5 years in a row. Then they go to the Super Bowl. Then they go no playoffs. Then they go to the NFC Championship game. Then they go to the NFC Championship game again. Then they go to the Super Bowl again. And then this year, no playoffs. I mean, that is crazy. In each of the last 22 seasons, going all the way back to 2003, the Niners have either made it to the NFC title game 7 times or missed the playoffs entirely 15 times. And they've had 7 different head coaches over that span, which also is quite revealing. But Dieter, what do you make of that? I mean, there is no other team in any other sport that has that kind of all or nothing kind of if they go to the playoffs, it's like their birthright is the conference championship game. And yet they've missed the playoffs. For a team that's gone to 7 NFC title games, they've also missed the playoffs 15 times. That's an amazingly high number. That is just a wild track record of success and failure since 2003. What does that in your mind reveal, if anything?
2 things. One, it's the legacy of Eddie DeBartolo in that you have teams that are consistently star-laden, right? They try to build around star players. And when you have that, you can end up in situations like this year where stars get injured and you don't have viable backups to fill the gap because the system is a lot different than when Eddie D was doing it. Eddie D could go out and buy anything he wanted. There was no salary cap. They could be the Yankees. And, the Yankees have this problem these days. And it's a lot like that around here. So you end up in this very boomer bust type of roster. The other thing it tells me is that this is not a good ownership group, that this is a team that is entirely coach-led. And if you don't have the coach, there's no infrastructure to prevent the bottom from completely falling out, as it has repeatedly under Jed York as the team's CEO. And that's what it tells me. So when you get Harbaugh in town, hey, immediate success, high-level success, deeper football teams. Yeah, they had stars. There's no question about it. But a competency that emanated from the head coach. He leaves, all goes to hell. A competency returns in Kyle Shanahan. It took him a year or two, right, to get back to that. But there was a competency when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch take over. And you see it, but they still have this, and frankly, they made the mistake this year of trying to push it one more year when the writing was on the wall that last year was, in fact, the last hurrah with the core that they had, and that they needed to do more modification going into this year. And instead, they felt like they were so close, it would be an error to break it up and not give it another shot. And this is what they got with that other shot. And now they got to do 2 off seasons in one. And that's an error of commission as opposed to an error of omission, even though they didn't really do anything. They made the conscious decision, knowing the risks. I would hope they knew the risks to run it back. But ultimately, it's about the head coach coming in and they create the infrastructure of competency. It's almost the exact opposite with like a team like the Philadelphia Eagles or the Green Bay Packers, right? It's not to say that Matt LaFleur is not a great head coach. He is. But they've had a standard and an infrastructure of competency in there for decades in Green Bay, right? They're always pretty damn good. And when the bottom falls out, it's something pretty big, and they get it right back on track. It helps to have good quarterbacks. The Eagles, right? Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, like there is a system of competency there. They can run through head coaches with ease, right? And Nick Sirianni is not even doing anything on that squad. Big Dom might as well be the head coach. And yet they're still still there every year because the competency comes from Lurie, who writes the checks, and from Howie Roseman, who ultimately calls the shots. That's where the competency comes from. So it tells me that the 49ers have a system of competency around the head coach, which at least you have one. I mean, a lot of teams don't have any system of competency, and that it's not a structured ownership group because they're entirely dependent on having the right guy at the right time to do the job. So it's history informing the present, in that the standard with the San Francisco 49ers is that this is showtime. This is big time. This is Yankees football, right? In a way, even though there was a Yankees team in football. Like, this is, you got to have big names, big stars. We're trying to repeat the Eddie D era, but in ownership's case, they don't know how to do this. They couldn't do this on their own. They need someone else to do it for them, and they just write the checks. So that's what it tells me.
I think what it tells me is that, the 49ers, when they're going right, they're still one of the premier teams.
No
but when they're not going right, they're they're not even good enough to make the playoffs, and they've had a lot of adversity and a lot of injuries along the way as well. But it is interesting. It's like when they get to the playoffs, they probably are one of the teams that nobody wants to play for that reason. And if they don't make it to the playoffs, it's in the years where they're not going to win, when they have no chance to win, they don't even tease you with like, well, hey, we're going to the playoffs and we're going to duck out. Now, they go to the playoffs, they're in it, and they could win it all. But then there's going to be years where they don't go to the playoffs. Two quick ones here. Chase Sr.'s got an interesting thing here. I want to share the screen on Brock Purdy's stats that he's got that are pretty interesting. This is Chase breaking it down. He says Brock Purdy's first 20 starts versus last 20 starts.
Yeah.
Excluding the 2022 NFC Championship game when he got hurt. First 20 starts, 17-3, 69% completion, 39 touchdowns, 9 picks, 116.6 passer rating. Last 20, 10-10, 64.4% completion percentage, 26 touchdowns, 15 picks, 93.6 passer rating. Brock has stated that he wants to get back to kind of like how he felt early on. And, when he talks about it, he's like, yeah, I just competed my butt off. I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I just competed my butt off. When you see those numbers, one, does it give you pause? Is there anything that you can point to? Is this Brock? We see which one is the real Brock? Is Brock a 500 quarterback who's going to throw a lot of picks, 15 picks? Or is he, a 17-3 quarterback who's going to complete 70% of his passes and be, let's say, top 10 in the league across the board at the position? Which is the real Brock Purdy?
This is such a cop-out answer. I mean, if I'm going to give you the answer to your question. I'm not going to be a puss about it. The latter is closer to the real Brock Purdy. Okay. There's the answer to that question. But both of these Brock Purdys are real. The original, that first Brock Purdy, when circumstances were ideal, is absolutely real. That's a thing, right? He is not, and I know a lot of people want to say that Brock Purdy is just a byproduct of circumstance. Those people seem to forget the circumstances that preceded Brock Purdy, because the same situation applied to Jimmy Garoppolo, who was having a solid enough year in the limited time. The same circumstances applied to Trey Lance. Those guys were handed good teams, right? And ultimately, they weren't able to make as much out of them as Brock Purdy did. Brock Purdy maximized that situation. When the situation isn't ideal, Brock Purdy is making something out of it. Right? So it's not perfect. No one would expect perfection, particularly this season, given the circumstances around. Every quarterback's better if you give him better players around him. But the idea that that original standard is something that he should be consistently held to, as I said earlier, when circumstances change, our opinions can change. Circumstances have changed. It's not as good as it was. Of course it isn't. Anyone watching can see that. Offensive line isn't as good. The running game has nothing. You don't have Christian McCaffrey playing at an MVP level in your backfield. You don't have Deebo Samuel, save for one game against Miami for whatever the hell that was worth. George Kittle's in and out of the lineup this year. You're using Juwan Jennings as your X receiver. All of these things, Brock needs to elevate above it. And when the contract is here, he won't get this level of deference and excuse making for sure. But both of those are real, and both of those are positive, right? Oh, he's not been as good lately. Who would be? Patrick Mahomes hasn't been very good this year. The difference between Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy is that the 49ers have been god-awful situationally, and the Chiefs have been perfect situationally. They can't help but be great in situational.
They haven't been good in the red zone, but I know what you're saying. They've been good.
The 49ers on third downs. The defense is horrendous. Come out with your spreadsheet. I don't give a damn. I watch their defense, and anytime they need to make a play, they fail to make a play. At a certain point, it comes down to situational football, and the 49ers, because they've honestly been in so many games where they're getting their ass kicked, haven't been in a tremendous amount of situational football scenarios, and they don't maybe have the competency to be in a lot of situational scenarios, but they're one of the worst situational football teams I've ever seen. Legitimately. Because they when they find themselves there, they completely shit their pants every time. Offense, defense, doesn't matter. That stuff does matter, and that stuff does have to be held against Purdy, but that's not just Purdy. That is an overall illness on this team. But when this team was cooking, they never found themselves in situational scenarios because they were kicking everybody's ass so hard. So that's what I want to see I want to see them play good situational football if they have the opportunity at some point this season, just to let me know that it's there. And if you can do it against Detroit, all the better, because that's going to be a very challenging matchup for them. But both of these Purdys are real. And if you're going to say which one's the real one, the one that has less insulation's the real one. But everybody has to face those same things. Jared Goff has not been the same quarterback since David Montgomery went out. What happens when that offensive line isn't the best in football anymore because Jared Goff's making $55 million a year and there are certain sacrifices that have to be made? What happens when you don't have Ben Johnson as your offensive coordinator anymore because he takes over on a different team? What happens when things that have been happening to the Niners over the last 5 years start happening to the Lions, who haven't won shit yet? We'll find out.
They're paying their quarterback $55 million, so that this is the team that they can put around him. By the way, it's not like they're going to pay him; they are paying him that.
Well, it really kicks in next year.
But Philly, Green Bay, Detroit, they're all paying their quarterback $50 million, and they all have loaded rosters.
But those rosters have also not been decimated by injury in those particular spots the same way. Right? Like the Eagles.
But the Niners are contributing to their problem because they went all in on Hargrave and they missed out on all these top 3 picks. And it's just when you miss as many top 3 picks as they've missed, you can't go for Hargrave. And if you do, you better hit. And instead, now he's out for the year and their depth is has been depleted. And they're just not the same team because they're not as deep as they were. Brock Purdy, though, has gone back-to-back games where he's thrown back-breaking, interceptions to finish the game. I'm going to share the screen on this one because this is the one that. Oh, I guess I'm already sharing the screen. Huh? There we go.
Yeah, we got to see the entirety of Chase Senior's timeline there.
There we go. We were sorry about that, but here it is. Here's the play that I was going to play.
Get your hands on Kittle.
Okay, now I'll turn the volume down on this so we don't have to listen to the announcers. But this is Brock Purdy. His value proposition is tied to decision making. He's supposed to make good decisions. Here's 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. They're down 5 points. They're on the 47-yard line. It's 1st and 10. Okay, there's 2 minutes. The game. You don't need to ever take any chances right here. You don't really need to take any chances until you need to take a chance. So there's no reason to be this aggressive.
Right.
There's no reason to throw this ball.
He doesn't trust any of these people out there, and so he forces things into windows that don't exist because he's afraid of his line. He's afraid of what his receivers will do. He doesn't trust them.
And he's so scattered here that it's just like make something happen, make something happen, make something happen. It's not that desperate of a situation. You need to keep your wits about you, and instead he makes this inexplicable.
Can't separate, so you have to throw these 50-50 balls and trust that he'll come down with them. And when you live in that world where everything is a risk, you kind of get numb to the possibilities of Could this be intercepted? They're all, every time he throws the ball, it's who knows? It could get intercepted. So he's just totally numb to risk reward at this point.
His dials right now are off as far as risk reward. They were perfectly set, and now he's looking more like Derek Carr, where he just it's like kind of broken. Now here's a stat: 49ers are minus 53 in scoring margin in the fourth quarter. That's dead last in the NFL.
Sounds right.
Are you putting that on Brock? Are you putting that on Shanahan? Are you putting that on the defense? Are you putting it on all three? Why are the 49ers the worst team in the NFL, minus 53 in the most important quarter? Why?
Because the first part of a game is about script and the second part of the game is about players. There's no script.
And they have no players.
They don't have the players. And that includes Brock. That includes the fourth quarter. And it includes Kyle Shanahan, who can't put his players. When it just turns into ball, when you just have to go off your gut, when you're just kind of winging it, right? And it's all about feel. He doesn't have feel. This is a bad test taker. You know those guys who are pretty smart, but in school they couldn't take a test because they'd panic, they'd freak out because I didn't prepare for exactly this. They got no wiggle room. They got no ingenuity. His genius, and he is unbelievable. His genius is when he can spend all week on it. And you can see that preparation take a toll on his body throughout a season. There's no pragmatism to this man. And so when the game comes down to it, he just gets crossed up. He chokes up in big-time scenarios because you can't script those scenarios because there's no way to prepare for the infinite amount of possibilities that could be coming your way late in the game. And so everything is about this rubric that he's built. And guess what? Football games rarely hold to a rubric. Now, if you're winning, they do. But if you're losing, toss it out the window. Figure something out. He can't do stuff like that. And his quarterback has now been trained in his system so that he's lost a little bit of that ability, right? He's got to do it Kyle's way or the highway. Well, Kyle's way doesn't work when you're down and you're losing. And now I got to go out there and make something happen. And the defense is strictly just you don't have the dudes. And eventually teams lean on you. And eventually you break down because you don't have the dudes. And you don't have the dudes in the most important spot. You don't have them up front. And so you're playing. How many times have we noted this year the first string defense, just the defensive line, just getting pushed around in the fourth quarter because, they didn't actually get that rest that the system predicates, right? Years and years. You'd be like, why isn't Bosa on the field? Well, it's because they're giving him a series off. And he gets a lot of series off during the games. And you kind of wonder, man, that's kind of ridiculous. This is why. Because when you ask them to go, backfield, there's never a rep off in the NFL, but there's certainly not when you're in a one gap and go system and every play is explosion off the line. And by the fourth quarter, you don't have your legs under you anymore. So what happens? You get pushed around. You get pushed off your spot. They can run the ball on you. James Conner, Arizona, week 5. Textbook example. And it hasn't gotten any better since. First half of the game is script. Second half of the game is players. The Niners don't have the players. I'm not telling anyone anything. They don't know about it. And the problem is that Kyle can't script through his life because that's not how games work. That's not how the world works. And the team just clams up when it comes down to situational football or circumstantial football because we weren't prepped on exactly this. Yeah, you're never gonna go play some ball. Go use your talent.
I'm reading a tweet here from Chase Sr. Says the Niners should sign Daniel Jones this offseason to be Brock Purdy's backup. Put him on the Sam Darnold plan, a year to reset, be around a good organization and coaching staff, and serve as a high-level backup and veteran developmental prospect behind Purdy. Okay, so my plan for rebuilding the 49ers is I'm bringing Brock back. He's the starting quarterback. But I also kind of feel like part of his regression is that he is a guy that is a great competitor. And they took away a lot of that competition as soon as they just said, it's all you. And we're just going to have, can't do it Brandon Allen, can't do it Josh Dobbs. We're going to have all these can't do it guys around you. I really think that they need to pay Brock Purdy, but they also need to bring some more, bring back the competition. Have a guy there that this year it seemed like let's make Brock happy. I don't need happy. I don't want happy. No. I don't like happy. I don't want content.
Right.
I want you get the best out of Joe Montana when Steve Young's right there. You get the best out of Steve Young because Joe Montana is right there. You're going to get the best out of Brock Purdy if there's a guy there that if he throws a late pick in the fourth quarter, that they can say, hey, Brock, sit down. We're going to Sam. We're going to this guy. We're going to that guy. Now, I don't know if Daniel Jones is that guy.
He's a good option.
That's, to
He's
me,
a viable option in that regard.
They need a much better number 2 quarterback sitting right there. I think it's a major portion of the Brock Purdy value proposition. I want Brock Purdy coming back, but I want to make sure that you're holding his feet to the fire. Mm-hmm. No more, this is yours. You're already going to pay him a ton. So he's already going to have that assurance, knowing that he's the money guy.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? You got to have somebody there that if he makes these stupid mistakes in the middle of the field, that you can say, hey, Brock, you're not seeing it well today. Sit down. We're going with Zach Wilson. Brock, you're not seeing it well today.
I don't know if that's the example, but yeah.
We're going with Mac Jones. I don't want Brock Purdy
I think there's a better option.
I don't want a gigantic kumbaya. I want Brock Purdy to look over and go, damn, I hate that guy. And I want that guy to go, damn, I hate this guy. Yeah, I don't need these guys to love each other.
Take his job. Or these guys suck. I can't believe they get this much.
I need a real guy. Brandon Allen's not real. No. Josh Dobbs is 3-11.
Correct.
3-11. So he's not the guy. He's a backup quarterback. I need another guy. Give me somebody who's real. I'll take Mac Jones. I don't love Mac Jones though, because I just think Mac Jones is kind of sour.
There's an obvious answer here, and it's that on day 2 of the draft, you take somebody, and you say, we think that this guy should have gone
Ewers or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if Milroe falls, that would be perfect. Round 2, Milroe, and people will say, what a waste of a pick. Fuck no, just in the same way people went on, I can't believe you did Michael Penix. Now, was that maybe a failure for the Atlanta Falcons in organizational, just basic organization? Hey, we didn't get the eval done on Penix early enough so that we're going to give this guy $100 million. That's the failure. But having 2 quarterbacks is never a problem. It isn't, because Kirk Cousins had to play this entire season knowing that if he fucked up, and he did, that he was going to lose his job and that he was going to be out on his ass. And he moved his family, all this stuff. These are things that matter. And this is why it matters, these final games. The NFL is so different than any other league. NBA, the regular season, people do not care because they know it doesn't matter. Major League Baseball, every game is so diluted down in its meaning, it does not matter. In the NFL, even the San Francisco 49ers have a game that at least matters a little bit. It has a little bit of meaning in that there are guys out there, maybe not Brock Purdy, but maybe Brock Purdy, who are playing for their jobs, playing for their NFL livelihoods, because everybody is on a 1-year deal in the NFL, save for Deshaun Watson. Like, everybody's on a 1-year deal. And that if something goes wrong for any of them, we'll move on. Kirk Cousins will eat a $60 million dead cap hit. Russell Wilson with the Broncos will eat an $80 million dead cap hit. We'll just move on and we'll figure it out, because the whole thing is so fluid that every game matters, every down matters, and guys who are getting an opportunity to play have an opportunity to make themselves some money next year, and guys who have some money have an opportunity to show that they don't deserve it for next year. And maybe that's why Debo started playing his ass off in Miami, because he's like, I'm out. I better do something to convince them to keep me around, because otherwise they'll just take the dead cap hit of 10 mil. Instead, they could pay me 19. Like, everybody is playing for their job every snap of every week, outside of very, very, very specific circumstances. That's what makes the NFL awesome, is that there are stakes across the board all the time. And Brock Purdy, let's be real, you're right. They gave him everything he wanted. And this is a guy whose entire career has been built on this underdog mentality, and now he's the favorite. Now he's the winner. Now he's the top dog. Is it surprising that he looks a little different this year? Probably not, when you think about it that way. Give him some fire under his ass. It's the best thing for him. It's the best thing for the team, because if they're wrong about Brock Purdy and they just signed him to this contract, you're going to want an insurance policy in place, because now you're not desperate.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. I mean, most of the time you need a Hall of Fame quarterback to win. Is he a Hall of Fame quarterback? Probably not.
No.
Can you win with him? I think you can.
Absolutely.
But you should keep looking for a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Generally, I'm not saying, intentionally go draft a bunch of quarterbacks. You got other needs.
No.
But keep looking for a quarterback in the draft that you think's a future Hall of Famer every year. Because that's what you do when you have a good but not great quarterback. You stay with your good but not great quarterback, and you keep looking for a great quarterback. By the way, John Shoup says Steve's best years were after Joe left. Joe was better before Steve showed up. This is a false narrative. John, you're wrong. Go look it up.
Also, of course, Steve's best years were after Joe left. That's how he got the job.
Well, no, but that's not true because Joe didn't leave until 93 and Steve won the MVP in 92. So this guy is wrong. I mean, you can't tell me that Steve wasn't good when Joe was there. Steve himself has said to me that Joe's presence there was one of the reasons he was so good in 1992. And by the way, Steve Young won the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year award. That year, 1992, go look it up. Joe Montana was on the team. Joe Montana was on the team in 1992 when Steve won the MVP. Now, Steve was good after Joe left, of course, but he was MVP, when Joe was there. And to listen to Steve say it, having Joe there was absolutely, incentive, if nothing else. And as far as Joe Montana was best with Steve Young. Steve Young was acquired in the 87 season. Joe Montana's apex of his career was 88, 89, 90. That is when he was the awesomest. I mean, they won it in 81. They won it in 84. He was great in 84. He's the MVP of the Super Bowl. Yeah. But as far as where was Joe at Joe's best, it was definitely when Steve showed up, 88, 89, and 90. Those 3 years were amazing years for Joe Montana. So, Steve, false narrative, John? No. No. Okay, who is in your ideal quarterback room next year? If it's Brock is your starter, then who else is in the room?
A veteran who can make fans clamor for him if Brock has bad games, and a rookie who you want to spend a year on who can push Brock in 2026 and beyond. But I think you do one solid year on the Darnold plan. And by the way, that's like a great thing for the Shanahan program to have, right? Come here, we'll get you a good job and get paid somewhere else. I wish the Giants would lean into that with pitchers, right? They did it with Rodon. They did it with Gosman. Come here, we'll get you right, and we'll get you paid somewhere else. But this is where you come to get right and to find the best version of yourself. And I think that the Dalton thing is an incredible opportunity for the 49ers to really plant their flag in that regard and always be in a position to have a really good backup quarterback on the cheap, because guys want to be there. So they need to capitalize on that again this year with somebody who, again, can, as you noted, as I know, we're in total agreement on this, can give Brock just a reason to sweat, a reason to go out there and have to have a good training camp. And then also you need to have a young guy, whether it be Mordecai, if that's your guy. But I would love to, what I want to see from the Niners is that they have a guy that if he falls to us in the first round, we're going to take him. And y'all can get bent. But this guy has outsized potential, like future Hall of Fame potential at the quarterback position. We identified him, and if he's in the first round and we're picking at 14 or 12 or wherever, and he falls to us, we're taking him. It has nothing to do with Brock Purdy. It has everything to do with you don't pass on a quarterback like that. We're going to learn the mistakes of our ways. I want a guy like that on day 2. Obviously not Hall of Fame potential, but just unbelievable outsized value for the spot. And I want for certain this team to take somebody at least on day 3 and to say, hey, this is our possible starter, not maybe this upcoming season, but in 2026, if Brock goes down, we're going to be able to put this guy in, and we're not going to lose as much as we would normally lose with the backup quarterback. We're not going to end up in a Dorian Thompson-Robinson situation, right? We're not going to end up in I don't know even who the backup. We want our Malik Willis. We want somebody who can come in. The train keeps moving. Obviously, Brock's better, but like competency, and he's on the cheap. And by the way, if we ever need to, we can trade him to somebody who, because he got 5 games and you're thinking, hey, this is pretty good, we can move on from him. But the idea of, oh, you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none, it's so ridiculous to me, especially if you're going to pay somebody. It's fine. I have no problem with the paying of Brock. But the idea that you can have too many quarterbacks is laughable.
Look at Philadelphia. Look at Philadelphia right now. They lost Jalen Hurts. They have Kenny Pickett. He was a starter in the league. He came in. They've got Tanner McKee.
Sucks, but yeah, I get it.
But I'm just saying he's a young starter who can play. I mean, he's not a backup. He is a backup, but he's a backup with some upside.
Right.
All I'm saying is I don't want everybody comfortable. I want people uncomfortable. There's too much comfort. I'm not worried about Brock's feelings. I'm paying him the money.
Right. That's what the money's
I want Zach Wilson sitting there. I want Mac Jones sitting there. I want Daniel Jones sitting there. I want somebody who can actually play. I want somebody more along the lines of Sam Darnold. I want somebody who can actually play.
Right. I don't want somebody to come in and be like, oh, I'm just Brock's backup. I'm just here to be his buddy. I want somebody who's like, fuck you. The same way Brock was. Brock's entire energy when he showed up was, fuck you. I'm better than these guys.
Right.
I'm better than these guys. Now, that wasn't a high bar, and it's a higher bar when you're doing that to Brock Purdy. But I don't want when I'm doing my interviews in the draft, I want someone who's like, I'm better than Brock Purdy. That's a prerequisite on like, you draft me, I'm beating his ass in camp. I don't care how much you paid him. I'm kicking his ass in camp. I get a backup. Hey, we're gonna get you right, and we're gonna give you a shot. The idea that there isn't competition, that's just another bit of, hey, we let our hand off the rope here. This team should be predicated on competition. I believe it was predicated on competition. And now suddenly they don't have anybody competing anymore because, well, these guys are the rich ones. And then there'll be some competition for third wide receiver or, backup, corner. Like, that's not competition.
Devondre Campbell can play horribly and have a terrible attitude and not get cut because there's nobody there to take his job.
Correct.
Because they didn't like Jalen Graham and they didn't believe in D. Winters and they didn't have another young linebacker.
And they didn't give him a shot in training camp either. They never allowed the possibility of somebody, because Devondre Campbell sucked in training camp and he sucked in the preseason. He sucked in the first 5 weeks of the year. And they're like, oh, well, we signed him to be a starter. Fuck you. You paid him money. He did not perform up to the responsibilities of that money. And yet you've never given enough shine or opportunity to somebody else who could. And you know what? D. Winters has looked okay the last couple of weeks. Imagine what would have happened if he existed in a world where he thought he had a shot to play outside if someone gets injured or quits a team halfway through the year. What would have happened then? And I know there were some injuries, and maybe this isn't the perfect example, but everybody on the 53-man roster, the 90-man roster at the beginning of training camp next year with the team that's this bad right now should be coming in with the intent of, if I play well in camp, I start for this team. It does not matter what you're being paid. And people preach that and they say, hey, everyone talks that big game. Let's see it in action for the 49ers next year, because the reason that this program got to the point it got to is because they started at year 0, right? They started with nothing. And so you had to earn your way onto the field because everyone was viewed as shitty. So we're going to find out who's not shitty and who is through competition. And Nick Bosa comes in. You got to earn it, baby.
Well, stop investing in other people's culture. If you really believe in your culture, then believe in your culture. Enough with the Isaiah Olivers and Devondre Campbells and other people's guys. Screw that. Go get somebody in the draft, trade back, get more picks, sign more undrafted free agents. They should have signed 2 or 3 undrafted free agent linebackers. And never signed Devondre Campbell. And guess what? These undrafted guys and these street free agents, these guys are cheaper than the Devondre Campbells of the world. And they're not going to tell you, flip you the bird when you tell them, hey, Devondre, we're going to go to a dime here in the fourth quarter. Come off the field. No. Oh, okay. You're right. Let's get a 12-man on the field penalty. That was on him. And they should have They should have called him out early and rooted him out of there. And I was saying, get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of him. And they were like, we like him, we like him, we like him. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, I guess we need to get rid of him. You know?
Yeah. Oh, we like him, we like him, we like him. We keep making excuses for bad play and bad behavior.
He's Oliver,
too. He's out here. It's just like it's unbelievable. And I get it. Okay, fine. You want to bring in guys that you feel like, hey, veterans, we don't need to teach them. But they also come in with baggage, and they're not hungry. What was Devondre Campbell hungry for? He was hungry for the respect that he no longer deserved. You heard him talking after the Rams game when they started throwing in Winters in there, and he's like, I didn't sign up for this shit.
Yeah, he's just a mercenary at this point. You don't want you could tell there was Dante Whitner was asked about this the other day, and he made the perfect comment. He's like, he had no investment in the 49ers. And that's really it. That's the whole thing can be summed up that way.
This is an operation that needs to rebuild culture. You're not going to do that, as you noted, with other people's.
No. By the way, build your own culture. It's like,
they did that once. They can do it again.
Right. I mean, you have a way that you do things in your family, and that your family is who you draft. And when you sign free agents, that's fine, but you're adding other people's family to your family, and there's always kind of an unknown there.
And you can't excuse people who don't buy in, right? If you want to be a free agent and you want to buy into the way we do things here in San Francisco, that's great, right? And maybe you can bring something positive, but you have an implicit buy-in. You know that it's this way and that you have to fit into that. But when you have a guy like Campbell, and it's easy to say now that it's all said and done, but I've been saying this since they signed him. Like, he's your third choice. He's coming in here, and he's gotten run out of a couple of spots now. And it's this, it was weird to begin with. And then he's constantly got these, I got this little injury here. He's not practicing hard. He's half-assing it as if he's Fred Warner or something. It's just laughable. And they just excused it because, we need him. We need him. We need him. That is the telltale sign of a shitty football team. The Jacksonville Jaguars spend so much money in free agency every year. They never get any better. Why is that, Larry? Why is that?
Well, it's because it's culture. You have to have the right culture. And, once again, I mean, it was so obvious. I mean, it's amazing, really, that they didn't see that. They don't understand that. They just thought they were so goddamn good that everyone else would get in line. And that's not the way the world works. You got to fight for it every day. And, the 49ers don't like any pushback, but the bottom line is I didn't mess up 20 picks in the first 3 rounds. You did. So, why are you out of the playoffs? That's the reason you're out of the 100%. Playoffs, and everything else is just kind of garbage. Let's hit a couple of these supers, and then I got a couple of thoughts, and then we'll jet. Bill Kennedy says, why is Fred Warner playing? Fred Warner's playing because Fred Warner's going to play, but Fred Warner should not be playing because if you lose Fred Warner to an ACL, he's missing all of next year, and he could easily have an ACL in this game. So it's like,
I say take out all their knees, make them play on little stubs, get them on the scooters, just have them out there in the scooters.
Put him if the guy. If not having him next year is going to change the line in week 1, don't have him out there. And that guy would, so don't have him out there. Matt Sanders, and I get it. Oh, you play 17 games. So what? That's why you got a 53-man roster. That's why you got a 16-man practice squad. Yeah. Put those other guys out there. Matt Sanders, there's nothing to be gained from Brock going against the Lions and then a division rival is asinine. He needs reps, and he's not made out of glass. He needs reps. Why does he need reps? What does he do? He's been playing all year. Nothing to be gained. It's not nothing to be gained, but look what could be lost. And what you're not. If Brock plays great, are you going to the Super Bowl? No. If Brock plays amazing, are you going to the playoffs? No. If Brock gets hurt and is out for all of 2025, are you saying the same thing? Probably not.
Listen, I think there's a very different conversation to be had about Week 18. I think I'll be with you in Week 18. I think with 1 game left to go, this is the see it out game. But if Brock sits the final 6 quarters of the season, I have no problem with that. But he has to start this game, and you have to give it a shot.
Once again, next year in August, when Kyle Shanahan says, well, I'm only going to play Brock in the first half, and that because I'm only going to have Trent Williams out there in the first half. Think about these games. that he's playing behind Austin Pleasance, and tell me if that was consistent.
I'm for playing more in the preseason. Shout out Joe Montana in 1991.
Matt Sanders is more Moneyball mentality ruining this franchise.
I don't see that. I don't see this team moneyballing at all. Like this
and
team,
what does that even mean? What does that even mean?
This idea of everything's on a spreadsheet as opposed. This team's success has been predicated on physicality and having dudes who are about it, having a little crazy on this team. And a lot of teams try to moneyball through, here's the data. Our data says our defense is awesome. Yeah, my eyes tell me a different story. Football can't be moneyballed because football requires some screws loose in your head to play at a high level.
No, there's analytics. There's believe me, there's analytics in football, and there are modern analytics that say you run on 3rd and 4, so you can run again on 4th and short. The Niners pass on 3rd and 4 because they don't believe they can run for in short yardage, and then they kick a field goal or punt on 4th down. So I mean, the Niners are definitely not on the cutting edge of the analytics. The
analytics can be whatever you want because the analytics can only go off of what has already been done, right? Analytics are just a compilation of prior data, and ultimately, going back to first half is scripts, second half are players. The beauty of sports is that it's not the same thing that's always been done. There's always something new that can be created and improvised in the moment. And that's the genius of these players. Sometimes the genius of the coach. You're coming up with something fast and on the fly. So the idea of running everything through analytics, congratulations. Now you have baseball, very formulaic, very understandable, a game that lacks spontaneity and excitement. Oh, congrats. Now you have the NBA in the modern era where everyone's just spamming a three-point shot. There's no creativity. There's no ingenuity. There's no excitement, frankly, unless somebody makes a bunch of them and there's a back-and-forth game, but it's two teams playing in a vacuum. In football, where every play ends with a car crash, the numbers just don't carry as much weight. They can help inform you in certain decision-making processes. They can help inform your game plan, but it ultimately comes down to men running into each other at high speed, and that's not something that can be quantified, at least as long as we're alive.
Once again, to Matt Sanders, there's nothing to be gained from Brock going against the Lions and then a division rival is asinine. Well, then why didn't you play him in Week 18 last year against the Rams? I was a division rival. And there was actually something to be gained there, right? Because you wanted to keep in tune, fine-tuned for the playoffs. So there was a reason to play and a reason to establish a rhythm. If Brock Purdy plays in this game and establishes the greatest rhythm he's ever established, so what? They're not going to the playoffs. So if you're going to sit him in Week 18 against the Rams, because there was nothing to play because you had clinched things.
You need to find out if guys can play with Brock Purdy, though.
Then... But I mean, that was playing him with a full complement of a line that was going to the Super Bowl or potentially the Super Bowl that went to the Super Bowl. But this year, behind a weak line, behind a weak team with no CMC, no Ayuk, but you put him out there anyway, even though he's being blocked by guys that you can't even name, and he could get hurt. I mean, and he's not made out of glass. Will you be saying that on Monday? On Tuesday, if Brock Purdy tears an ACL on Monday night and is out for 2025, will you be the guy sitting here saying, hey, you know what? He wasn't made of glass. You just had to put him out there. They had no choices. Kyle didn't have a choice. He had to put him out there. Or will you be like questioning Kyle's choice? I think there'll be a lot of people questioning Kyle's choice.
Doesn't mean they're right, though.
Doesn't mean they're right, but they'll be questioning it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think it will be a lot of people. I think it will be everybody, and I think it will be blood in the water.
It's going to be big. It'll be big. If Brock Purdy misses 2025 because of an injury against the Lions or Cardinals, that is borderline coaching malpractice. I mean, you cannot risk. It's like anything else. It's like, hey, man, I made this practice
him either.
I made this bet. I made this bet this week. Is it a good bet? No, it's not a good bet. It's you're making a bet where you're betting $7 to win $12, and it's not a good bet. The risk reward makes no sense. I mean, there are bad bets when you look at what you're going to wager and what you're going to win.
We keep coming back to the fact that there's a fundamental disagreement in the risk and the reward when we compare it, and it's an apt comparison to last year's Week 18 game. We just disagree on the risk and the reward of those because we'll go back and forth. I really hope he doesn't tear his ACL on Monday.
I do too. I hope he doesn't get hurt, but if he does, oh my God. The heat will be dialed up on Shanahan and Lynch.
I mean, okay, is someone really suggesting here that Dominic Puni should not be playing?
Is that what I'm rookie guard? Rookie guards play. Diaz
I think we should put Larry and Dieter in it, left tackle and right tackle.
He says, no way Fred Warner, 87. Who's 87? That's Dwight Clark.
Yeah.
I think he probably means somebody else.
I think he probably means Kittle.
85. Okay, yeah. So no way Fred Warner, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Dre Greenlaw, Demo Lenore, or Dom Puni should be playing. They're done. No benefit in garbage time, and yet it's a huge risk.
When we're elevating Dom Puni to this level, the plot has been lost.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I do agree with Kyle. You have to play the season. He's like, hey, man, I got a football team to coach. Okay, that's why you can't let everybody sit out. You're right. He's absolutely right. Everybody can't sit out. But your starting quarterback could absolutely sit out. Eric Darby says this should be considered our 2025 preseason.
That's where I'm
at. That's great. Again, would you? Okay, I have to bring it up.
System once again, players. That's stupid.
But once again, if this is the preseason, where's the consistency? Because in past preseasons, when Trent has come out of the game, Jimmy has come out of the game. Brock's coming out of the game. But now Trent's coming out of the game, and you got Jalen Moore. Oh, wait a second. You don't have Jalen Moore. You have Austin Pleasance, and Brock's in the game.
No, so you're right. You're right on that. You're right on that. I don't like the inconsistency, but I'm pro preseason. So if this is the preseason, now we get to do it my way.
HR says Larry's right because Kyle's system injures all. I don't.
That's fucking
his system doesn't.
Sorry, that's just it's fucking stupid.
Yeah, I mean it's not. It's not his system that is
his
injuring
system.
guys.
What about his system injures players? Extrapolate that one out.
Yeah.
What about his system? Is he the only one playing professional full contact football? Kyle invented the game. Like, what are we talking about there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you're arguing. I guess the argument would be that he runs too much, but then if anything, he's kind of gets pass happy. So I wouldn't say he runs too much. To me, he runs too little.
His offensive line system is the one that gets players injured. Outside,
I've heard people question his practice habits and this and that. I don't know. I would say
3 years ago, people were complaining that they didn't practice hard enough. Now they practice too hard because one guy said they practice harder than the Eagles. Well, that's not a high bar because the Eagles don't practice. Like, I find the whole thing of just put it on Kyle. I will criticize Kyle for another 2.5 hours, Larry. That's not an issue. He's got plenty to wear. But the idea that everything, this panacea for all of the 49ers' woes is a Kyle issue is laughable.
Yeah, well, let's be honest about this. There's a lot of people.
Who would replace him? Look at how valuable a quality head coach is. You got a guy who took you to 4 NFC championship games in 5 years, you greedy little piglets.
Well, the funniest part about the whole ripping of Kyle is the same people that are ripping Kyle and saying that he needs to go are ripping Brock and saying he's not him. So it's like, well, what is it?
Might be about something else for these people. Maybe they're projecting a little.
It's just really what it comes down to. It's like if you talk about football and you bring up other aspects besides the head coach and the quarterback, it doesn't have the same kind of
doesn't have the same kind of
Yeah, I mean, you don't get the clicks. So you have to filibuster on the head coach. You have to filibuster on the quarterback, or you don't get the feedback. But 100%. Once again, you're arguing that like Purdy's not good, and one of the reasons that you're arguing that he's not good is that he's operating Kyle's system. So now operating Kyle's system is somehow some cheat code.
You were in the overtime at the Super Bowl last year. The system was pretty good. But I mean, the greatest offenses in the history of the NFL last year, but it's the system's fault.
Let's just say this. For the people that are anti-Kyle and anti-Brock, it's amazing that got to the Super Bowl with Brock and Kyle last year, isn't it?
My God. I mean, imagine who would you rather have? I mean, explain to me that these are people who don't live in reality, Larry. These are people who get all of their information from First Take or other regurgitations where it's just attention mongers. And this is, I like Cowherd. You and I can disagree on that. That's fine. But ultimately,
I mean, he's entertaining, but he's
I can appreciate the solo aspect.
Pick a stat and then say it's the 100%. End all be all.
Well, because he's doing and this is me defending him, so heaven forbid. But like, it's a national show, and I know, having worked with him, his show is predicated on we have to come down to the lowest common denominator on everything. Everything has to be broken down to its most basic form so that it's easy to digest for people. And his system with the NFL is it's all about the head coach and it's all about the quarterback. You'll never get a high-level conversation. He doesn't. When do you think he'll ever use the words zone versus man-to-man? Right? That's not even high level. That's basic shit. But like that will never come across because it's a cult of personality, right? Everything is about the personality. Everything's about the characters. This is the digestible form, lowest common denominator. So when you constantly consume content like that, because it does well, lowest common denominator keeps winning in society time and time again. When you consistently consume content like that, it's impossible for you to have any concept of the complexity of these games and the complications that go into them. And so when something goes wrong, what do? Head coach quarterback. When it's good, it's head coach quarterback. When it's bad, it's head coach quarterback. It's a lot more complicated than that. I wish it was that easy, but it's the NBAification, the Cowherdification of everything. And it's rotten. It's ruining any possibility of a sane, progressive discourse. And I'll have no more of it, Larry. I'll have no more of it.
A couple last thoughts before we get out of here. Kings fired Mike Brown yesterday.
Incompetent and inept doesn't begin to describe Vivek and the curse of the Oakland A's. This is what you get for meddling.
Here is 2021 or 2018. Dwayne Casey wins NBA Coach of the Year. He gets fired.
Yeah.
2019, Mike Budenholzer wins NBA Coach of the Year. He gets fired. Nick Nurse, 2020, wins the NBA Coach of the Year. He got fired. Monty Williams in 2022 was the NBA Coach of the Year. He got fired.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Brown in 2023 was the NBA Coach of the Year. Here we are, December 28th of 2024. He's fired.
Right.
I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing. Is it just NBA Coach of the Year? Is that a sentence to be to death, or is that
got it?
Is that create some kind of expectation?
Oh yeah.
Sacramento is obviously not very good.
It's entirely you get Coach of the Year because externally the perception was you were supposed to do a lot worse than you did. So right, we had this very low bar for you because you're in a bad situation. Or whatever it is, contextually. But we had a low expectations and you exceeded expectations. That's the only thing that award does. Hey, this team was better than we thought they'd be. So now you get Coach of the Year because that's what coaching is, right? Just exceeding external expectations. And so, it's not a surprise that people got fired because there's a reason the expectations were the way that they were. People thought it was a shitty scenario. And so when that truth wins out, when the outlier year does, Farhan, I'm sure, won Executive of the Year. And I mean, I don't know who won. Did Gabe Kapler win Manager of the Year for the 107 win Giants? Probably should have, right? But was he a good manager, or was that the exception that proves the rule? Was that an outlier year? That's how it goes. It's like that in every sport. Kevin Stefanski's the only one who seems to keep doing it. But you know why? Because he's the coach of the Browns, so everyone expects the worst. So when he does anything,
Mike Brown is not the problem with the Kings, and that's for sure. The Kings in games decided by 5 points or fewer in Mike Brown's first two seasons were 28 and 22, eighth best in the league. In games decided by 5 points or fewer this season, they're 3 and 11, worst in the NBA. But it is interesting. I mean, as I said, it's not Mike Brown. The Kings under Vivek Ranadivé's ownership have won 42% of their games, 27th in the NBA. They have one playoff berth, that's 30th in the NBA. They have 3 playoff wins, that's tied for 28th in the NBA. They have won 0 playoff series, that's dead last in the NBA.
That's right.
But they got the Kings coaches. By the way, this is pretty amazing. The Kings coaches to complete 3 full seasons since the team moved to Sacramento in 1985. Can you name the 3 coaches that have actually coached more? They've completed three full seasons.
George Karl, Rick Adelman.
Nope. Rick Adelman, 8 seasons, 8 playoff berths, by the way. Pretty damn good. Rick Adelman, most successful coach in Sacramento Kings history for sure. But can you name the two other guys?
Michael Malone? He didn't get 3, did he?
Nope.
No, I can't name them.
Dave Yeager or Jager or whatever.
Oh, yeah, Dave Yeager, yeah.
Yeah, 3 years, no playoffs.
Yeah, that's
right. And Saint.
Hey, the saintly one.
The saintly one, 4 years, only one playoff berth.
Yeah.
Okay. Warriors.
That's gangbusters.
Quick hitter on the Warriors. What do you make of what's going on with the Warriors? It's like Kerr obviously doesn't like Kuminga. It's pretty obvious. He doesn't want to play Kuminga. The whole thing is kind of tired. Steph is done. It's really obvious. He's not. He's can't. Well, he's done as far as being Steph. He's not. He can maybe get it going for a night here, a night there, but he's already talking about retirement now, and it's like it's looking. These people that were like, "Oh, he's going to go on forever." It's like,
He went longer than I thought he would.
Yeah, but literally, this has been a precipitous drop. He's fallen off the table this year. It's just not been good, and he's not playing in one of the next 2 games. He plays a couple, he sits a couple. It's like he's older. They're trying to get the ball out of his hands, which is why they traded for Schroeder.
Right.
And
that's going great.
Schroeder it's really hard to. You can add a rebounder, you can add a player off the bench or whatever, but if you're going to take the ball out of the primary ball handler's hands and put it in somebody else's hands, that's a major fundamental change to your team, and it looks like it for the Warriors. They've played really badly with Schroeder and have looked bad ever since.
It's a ball stopper.
I don't want Jimmy Butler. I really don't.
It's good.
I know there are people.
Pat Riley said they're not trading him.
Yeah, Pat Riley says he's not going anywhere. I listened to a lot of JD on Just Dubs, and he is so anti Kuminga.
I'm with
that. I'm having a hard time listening to that because Kuminga is clearly the biggest talent on the team at this point, and he's got and
he's Keldon
he needs
Johnson.
To play.
He
needs to play. He needs to play. Whether it's going, they don't want to trade him. Because they're afraid of trading him, but they don't want to pay him because they're afraid of paying him.
They're petrified. They're petrified of making a decision. They're petrified of making a decision.
So what's the deal?
Never had to make a true decision.
Yeah. What's gonna happen here?
They're gonna go into perpetual Giants mediocrity. They're going to not make decisions, and the world will happen around them. That's what's going to happen because they couldn't pull the trigger when the opportunity was there this summer because they have to win every deal because they think they're so goddamn smart. And it's a born on third base, thought you hit a triple situation. You inherited Steph Curry when you bought the team, and you lucked out immensely in getting Bob Myers into the situation and Steve Kerr at the right time. And they haven't made a risky play since then. They refuse to do it. And now they're high on their own supply, and it's years of it. It's just riddled their brain. And they're now petrified of what will probably happen, which is Jonathan Kuminga will be a better player when he's not on this team. And they're so afraid of the PR backlash to that, even though they have to know that so long as Steve Kerr is the head coach of this team, Jonathan Kuminga will never be the right fit for the Golden State Warriors. He cannot play in this system. And frankly, I don't think that he'll change his game for anybody, but at least on a shitty team, he won't have to change his game. It's a Jordan Poole scenario. And so they're just going to wallow in this indecision because they're too afraid to do this addition by subtraction thing. They had an opportunity to maximize the value this past summer. They chickened out from doing that. Now that opportunity's lost, and they still won't be able to pull the trigger because now it won't be any sort of a win of a deal. If Lauri Markkanen wasn't enough to get it, who the hell is that you can actually trade for? Because fiscally, it's very difficult to make trades in the modern NBA. And so they'll wallow in this, and they'll keep convincing themselves that Kuminga can make a jump, and he's going to end up like Keldon Johnson. His game will never evolve because it hasn't evolved yet. Only his opportunities have increased. And he'll just be bully ball, bad three-point shooter, total ball stopper on offense, antithetical to effectively everything that Steve Kerr stands for. They won't get rid of Steve because they know that's a bad decision, right? Because then they'd be handing over the team to Jonathan Kuminga, but they know they can't give the team to Jonathan Kuminga because he's not good enough for that. So they're not going to maximize what they have, and they're not going to get rid of a guy who doesn't fit. and definitely thinks that he should be more of a focal point. And so they're just going to live in this toxicity forever because they're afraid to make a decision one way or another. If they really felt some way about Kuminga, they'd pay him and they'd fire Kerr. And if they really felt like, hey, Steve Kerr's way is the way that we do business here, it's his way or the highway, they'd jettison Kuminga and they'd take the L. And they'd move forward, and they'd be better off for moving forward because this is a team that's having a players-only meeting. Those are 3 words that tell you that they are cooked. Let me know the last time a players-only meeting worked out.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, they want to win, and they want to play. They want to develop Kuminga, and it's like you can't. I don't know if you can do both. I mean, yeah, but you took a guy who was a baby. He was 19, so now he's 22. But I mean, he's played 37 games. Where he's played 30-plus minutes.
Yeah.
In those games, he's averaging 20 a game, 5.6 rebounds a game, shooting 54.2% from the field. He's shooting 42% from 3.
Do they win those games, Larry?
And he's got a plus 34 net rating. That's the question. That's the point. It's like when he plays and plays well, they don't win.
Correct.
But if they don't have him playing well, they can't win. They can't win anything.
I don't know if that's true.
Substance. I don't think they can. I mean,
can they win anything of substance in either scenario?
My point is just like, I know he's needs minutes to play well. And when he plays well, there's an inefficiency about how he plays.
Correct.
So the team doesn't necessarily play well.
Correct.
Well, like
What's this about then?
They're not going to win anything if Moody, Podziemski, Trace Jackson Davis, and Kuminga don't play huge minutes and lead them there. This whole because you can't be led there by your old power forward and your old point guard. They're too old. I mean,
then shift off of them. Then make the move. Then do it. Then buy in and do it.
Is the right move to move off of Kuminga, or is the right move to move off of their old guys and see if you can get your old guys somewhere else and go with your young guys?
I would move off of Kuminga. I'm willing.
If I told you, Dieter, you got to bet everything you own on Steph gets a ring or Steph doesn't get a ring. You're betting on Steph. You're betting on Steph not getting a ring.
Well, I'll bet on Steph getting a ring before Jonathan Kuminga gets one as a number 1.
But I mean, that's a totally.
No, I feel like it's a strictly binary scenario at this point.
But it's that's a different conversation because you're not winning either with him either. But my point is just that.
So why are you keeping him?
Steph's not winning. So you're not winning with Steph. I don't.
But you're not winning with Kuminga. So why are we doubling down on Jonathan Kuminga?
Because Kuminga's got a future and Steph's got a past, and you're selling tickets in the future. You're not selling tickets in the past.
You're trying to sell tickets to a winning basketball team, and you're not going to have that with Jonathan Kuminga.
But you're not going to have that with Steph Curry.
At least you have nostalgia with Steph.
Yeah, but I mean,
and when Steph turns it on, it's still one hell of a show. When Jonathan Kuminga turns it on, you lose by 15.
I'm just saying I don't think it's worth gutting your roster.
Oh, I don't want to gut it. I want to trade Jonathan Kuminga straight up.
Try to get an old player who can somehow be the key old player that enables Steph to make a run. The priority should not be getting Steph another ring because that's a crazy illogical thing.
That's fine. Then trade Steph Curry and trade Draymond Green and fire Steve Kerr. Pick a lane.
Well, is that how you see it? It has to be you can't go to the finish line with Steph if you can't win with Steph. See, I think you can go to the finish line with Steph even if you don't.
Then you can't keep Kuminga around because you're going to keep the Steph system and Kuminga doesn't work in it and it's toxic. It's a toxicity between Curry.
I got no problem moving Kuminga. I don't think they do either. It's just a matter of what do you get in return for Kuminga.
I don't get it's addition by subtraction at this point if you're committed to Steph and Kerr and Draymond.
I mean, why would you be committed to Steph and Draymond? They're not good. They're older players.
The alternative is you
only
commit
play
to Kuminga.
once a week.
You commit to Kuminga or you commit to the old regime. I'm willing to hear both, but they're not going to do either, and that's the failure.
Kuminga's this.
I disagree. I think
Steph
Kuminga is this.
Draymond's this. All young players are getting better.
No,
all young players are getting better.
He's not.
Why is he not getting better?
He hasn't changed a bit.
You don't think Jonathan Kuminga is a better player today than when he walked into the NBA?
Is Brandon Podziemski?
What does that have to do with Jonathan Kuminga? I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying that some guys can plateau.
Is that somehow a condition?
The argument that he's going up,
Kuminga's success is tied to Podziemski?
No, this is a fundamental thing.
No,
just because he's young doesn't mean that he has more room to grow.
But Podziemski's regressed because Podziemski's got nothing you can do. He has no game. You can't. Podziemski is the only guy that when you swing it on the perimeter,
great athlete.
When you swing it on the perimeter to Podziemski, as a fan, I'm not rooting for him to do anything. Correct. I don't want him to shoot it because I know he can't shoot it. I don't want him to drive because I know he can't finish.
I get it.
So it's like, what do? You rebound and you cycle the ball around, and that's where
he's a young player in his second year. Shouldn't he be getting better?
Well, not if the league found him out. I mean, and maybe he is getting better. It's not a straight line, but I mean, Kuminga definitely is better. The numbers show it, and his shot is way better than it was as a rookie. I mean, he looks way better than he was at 19. You don't think he looks quite a bit better than he did when he first came into the league? I thought
no. That's
a
different conversation than his arrow is pointing up. That's a different thing.
You don't think he's getting better? He's 21, no. 22.
He's 22, and I don't think that he's any better than he was last year. With ample opportunity.
I would say that the odds of Jonathan Kuminga getting better are really, really good.
Oh, he'll put up the numbers, but he is not. You and I both know what winning basketball looks like, particularly in this system. And he is no better in the system, and he is no better in playing winning basketball than he was last year or arguably the year before that. At what point do you need to say that this system or what the Warriors do isn't worth it? And so the question then is you have to ask yourself, okay, are we committed to the system and the way we do things here, which is predicated by Steph Curry and his style, or are we committed to the talent of Jonathan Kuminga, at least the athleticism of Jonathan Kuminga? Because you have to make a choice.
I mean, coaches are supposed to coach. I mean, young players are supposed to improve. If the Warriors' young players aren't improving, wouldn't that be on the coach?
Sure, you can use that argument, but you could also say that Jonathan Kuminga isn't willing to buy into what the coach is selling.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. But Kerr doesn't. I mean, if I was Jonathan Kuminga, I wouldn't like Kerr either. I mean,
because Kerr holds him to account.
Sheets. He's been playing, donkeys like Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome over me in past years.
Imagine if
Moses Moody shouldn't feel too good about Kerr either. Really, I mean, neither of those guys have come along. Kerr's not necessarily been a very good coach for these young players. I mean, Trace Jackson Davis hasn't improved. Podziemski hasn't improved. I mean, if we're going to say that Kuminga hasn't improved, then those guys haven't improved.
Well, I think
none of these guys are trusted agents, or nor should they be, at least.
Correct. And so why are you betting on if it's all the bottom's going to fall out? Okay, when Steph leaves, if it hasn't already fallen out, the bottom's going to fall out, and you're about to go into the quote unquote real NBA if you're not already there. Do you want to be tied to Jonathan Kuminga to pull you out of that, hoping that this guy who has shown no emotional growth, if nothing else, has shown no professional growth, if nothing else, who is basically still just raw athleticism manifest, hasn't shown an ounce of game or creativity or guile. He's just dude dunk, kind of Zion Williamson light. You want to bet on that? Or do you want to say, okay, the bottom's going to fall out and we'll rebuild and we'll be good at rebuilding? Because if you lock in with Jonathan Kuminga, you are locking in mediocrity at best, locking it in. And that's where you're at now. So if you like where you're at now, that's cool. That's great. It's probably not going to get any better than this.
Wow.
I don't believe in him at all. At all. Me and JD are aligned.
Wow.
Not a winning basketball player.
I don't think you're going to win either way, so it doesn't really matter.
Then you're not direction. Pick a direction. Fire Kerr and trade Curry and trade Draymond and jumpstart and build around Jonathan Kuminga, or get rid of Kuminga, who can't play in that system and who is bringing down the collective by behind the scenes stuff, and commit to those guys and see how far they can take you. And if you can't win either way, at least go with the one that isn't a pain in the ass. At least you know what you got in Kerr and Steph and Draymond. At least you can sell nostalgia for a couple of years.
Yeah, I don't
think
so.
Selling Jonathan Kuminga is great for a week, and then everyone's like, and that's it?
I'd rather take a guy who's getting better and then the guys that are getting worse.
The fact that
the guys that are getting worse are going to be worse tomorrow than they are today, and by definition.
I agree
and
with you. But
Kuminga's
they have a lot
better.
more to fall than Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga has so much room to go up. And it's now this belief of, oh, well, he's only 22. Well, next year will be he's only 23. And then at a certain point you go, oh, fuck, he never got better, did he? He never became an all-star, did he?
Well, they got to decide what he is. I mean, it's
agree.
like, dude, you're keeping this guy. Well, you holding this guy hostage.
And the fact that they couldn't sign him to a contract this past offseason, the fact that Kuminga's like, I'm a max player, and they're like, the fuck you are. That's when you move on from him, because it's not going to get no one's going to find, he's never going to be a max player. They were right in saying that he's not a max player. And if you hold that opinion of yourself after last year, what the hell is going to happen this year? Oh, you guys were right. I'm not that good. Like, that's when you move on. And instead they're like, no, let's play it out another year. Let's find out. There's nothing to find out. Talk about Jonathan Kuminga as if he's 22. He's been a 4-year veteran in the NBA. He's been in this league long enough. You know what he is. And there's going to be a new batch of young guys who will come in at 19, and 2 of them are going to hit. And then the next year, a couple more are going to hit. And just a new batch every year. And you're just going to be hanging on Jonathan Kuminga's potential. This is the kind of player that eats inept front offices alive. And it's the reason why the same teams in the NBA are shitty year in and year out. Eats them alive. And the Warriors are getting eaten alive because they're too petrified to make a mistake that they won't do anything in either direction. Pick a lane and go for it. You're going to lose either way. At least do something about it. Don't let fate happen to you. Choose your fate, even if it is going to end up in the same end point.
Yeah, I mean, I'd much rather go with somebody with a future than somebody who's done.
Fair.
I mean,
then do it. Then
Steph
buy
Curry's
in and do it.
So done.
That's
so
fine.
Done.
Then
and
buy in
Draymond
and do
Green's
it.
done too.
That's
the thing with the Warriors. The Warriors it's sad because it's like the Warrior fans are all in love with Steph and Draymond and
totally.
and
the Warriors are so afraid.
It's like a great party that is over and it's
fine.
like, oh man, we can't get rid of Steph, and it's like,
can't do
man.
it. Can't
Steph
do it.
is so done. And
when Clay left, everything should have been on the table because the nostalgia play no longer carried the same weight. And that was your opportunity, much like with the 49ers. You lose in the overtime of the Super Bowl. This is your opportunity to do some pretty serious pivoting on the fly. But because teams hold on to what they have, and this is a byproduct of people who inherited good situations. You see this, I think you could argue this with Kyle, right? Just given a job in the NFL, didn't work his way up through anything. Here you go. You're on John Gruden's staff now. They hold on to what they have more than they're willing to take the risk. Joe Lacob is unrecognizable right now. Venture capitalists constantly taking risks to build up this fortune. And now the Warriors taking risks, build up the Warriors. And now that they're there, just hold on for dear life. There's no risk taking. There's no aggression.
Well, because he's all about getting paid back on his investment at this point.
Entirely.
He doesn't. We're not going to take a backslide. Really. That's a neat little trick.
That's a great way to backslide.
And it's like he doesn't want to. He's the opposite of Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh is like, get rid of you a year too soon.
Correct.
He's like, oh no, we're not getting rid of these.
No,
guys.
because I have to. I'm going to sell tickets.
I've got to get people through the turnstiles and this.
People might see me as somebody. I make this decision, but like, they're so afraid of not being seen as the smartest guys in the room that they're going to end up looking pretty damn stupid to everybody.
Yeah,
make a call. Actually. Do it.
Well,
do it one way or
sad.
another.
It's like, dude, nothing.
Same thing that happened with the Giants.
Nothing sadder than the old guy just trying to hold on, and that's
dyeing their hair and going to the club. You're 65 years old, man.
Yeah, I mean,
take that stupid shirt off.
It's like they're just so desperate to get keep the Warrior thing going, and it's just so over.
Yep.
But it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. But they're not winning anymore. And that's the thing. It's like they're not winning any more titles with Steph. So maybe you should just have a real conversation with Steph and be like, Steph,
what do you want?
Do it. We're not winning any more titles here with you. So where do you want to be? You want to go to the Knicks? We'll trade you to the Garden. We'll take a bunch of picks for the Knicks. You can go win for the Knicks. The Knicks would be where I'd go if I was him. I mean,
I don't think that there's actually a
Charlotte
mechanism in which they can make that happen. But yeah,
I mean, what's that?
I think the Knicks are hard capped at the second apron, and they just gave up 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. So, like, I don't think they can. make a trade. I think that they're, but I get what you're saying.
I mean, like, it's like if you're all about winning a championship with Steph Curry, and that can't happen, then it's like, okay, then what? Okay, so that's your goal. Your goal is to win a championship with Steph Curry. Okay, it can't happen. Now what?
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
What do? You got this super expensive arena. You got a basketball team that's kind of irrelevant. They got off to a hot start and have now circling the drain. Yeah. Kerr looks like he's about ready to just lose it.
I think they're hoping, like most people who are born without a sense of agency, they're just hoping that someone else makes the decision for them. Oh, Steph retired. It wasn't our decision. He just retired. Clay just left. It wasn't our decision. He just left. Draymond decided he wanted to go to. Oh, it wasn't our decision. Oh, Kerr quit. Oh, it wasn't our decision. He just and things just happen. And that's a great way to end up in the bottom because that's not a plan. That's just happenstance. That's just having the world crumble around you and then pretending as if you planned it all away. Yeah, straight hater. Explain to me the alternative here.
Larry is a straight hater for real. Why am I a hater? Because I said that Steph's done. Did I hurt your feelings?
The team that's 3-12 in their last 15 games deserves respect.
I mean, seriously, bro. Come out of your Santa's workshop and, come off of Candy Cane Lane and back to reality.
I'd love to go to Candy Cane Lane. That means I'm watching good basketball. I'm wasting my time with this squad every night.
Yeah. I mean, it's just there. Nobody loves the Warriors more. I mean, when you guys were, doing not being Warrior fans, I was a Warrior fan.
Yeah.
I was there for all those lean years. So sorry. I wasn't just there for a couple titles and now like trying to extend it. They got their titles. I mean, good for them. They got their titles, but they
got one more than they thought they'd get.
Yeah. That was their lucky title. The other teams kind of crapped the bed. They got their lucky title against the Celtics. And, just that's the way it is.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. Corbin Burns yesterday signed with the Diamondbacks. Giants fans. I'm totally happy with this. I really did not want this. I mean, to me, the Giants lucked out here. Absolutely lucked out.
Totally.
Corbin Burns' numbers, if you were one of those analytics people that looks at the numbers, his swing and miss rate, his strikeout rate, it all went down last year. You're now going to get involved in a big money long-term deal for over $200 million with a guy who's already shown regression. That makes no sense. And then you're going to sit there and, this guy's regressed. It's like, what's he going to do for you? He's going to have like a year or two of good ball, and then he's going to be bad
in the wrong year too, right? It'll be 3 years. I mean,
it's like these 6 year, 7, 8, these 6, 7, 8 year contracts with options after year 2. I mean, guys, those are lose-lose. If the pitcher pitches well, you have him for 2 years, but you're committing. I mean, it's like anything else. It's like, I made a bet. Is it a good bet? No, it's not a good bet. If you're betting $2 and you potentially can win, 5 cents, or you're betting, $2 million and you can win $5. It's like, no, you're risking more than you should based on the reward that you potentially can gain. And the same thing is here. It's like when you sign a pitcher to a 6 year, 7 year deal for over $200 million and then have a second year out, it's lose-lose. If he pitches well, he opts out. If he pitches poorly or gets hurt, he opts in. You're committing to 6 years of, huge money, and he's only committing to 2 years to you.
I mean, yeah.
So it's an awful way to structure.
My standard has been
Cueto one went terrible.
Yeah, I've never believed in signing pitchers that aren't your own, where you don't have all, if it's your own pitcher, you can sign him to a long-term deal because you have every bit of imaging and knowledge about that pitcher's arm. You've been in control. They ask you at the airport, have you been in possession of your bags the whole time? If you say no, well, then they're going to think there might be something wrong with those bags. They're going to check them out a little bit harder. But if you've been in possession of your bags the whole time and you want to sign the bag for, you give them the bag, I guess, in this case, you want to give 5-6 years. Okay, that's fine. I don't think it's smart, but at least that's justifiable because all the ins and outs of that player. And it was your system that put them in that spot. Picking up somebody else's bag and then being like, hey, we're going to give you 6 years. Like, oh my God, so dangerous. I'm with you on the options and this and that. I don't believe in signing pitchers to anything other than effectively 1 or 2 year fully guaranteed deals, in which in baseball, everything's fully guaranteed. But you need to give me an out in case your arm explodes, because every pitcher is riding that risk at all times. And in no other sport, no other position is the risk of injury so intense. I mean, it might as well. Running back can't even compare to this. So I'm not out here giving $35 million, probably a bargain for Corbin Burns. 6 years, not a bargain. So I'm not playing that game. Produce your own pitching. You play in a ballpark that is conducive to pitching. If you can't make pitchers at the San Francisco Giants, then you don't deserve a Corbin Burns to begin with. What the hell do you need a Corbin Burns for? You suck. What is that going to do for you? The risk is just too immense, and I've maintained this for 20 years. I mean, this is going back to Mike Hampton, back with the Rockies. Like, what are you doing? And that's nothing's going to be accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, and
There's
there's talk out of New York on WFAN's website about our Twitter site about the Giants are a team that could swoop in and make a play for Pete Alonso.
Cool.
And there's a lot of people going, "Oh no, don't get Pete Alonso."
At least I know what I'm getting from Pete Alonso for the next 5 years.
I mean, Pete Alonso is a. I mean, I would watch more Giants baseball if they had Pete Alonso. And to me, everyday guy is who you go to pay to watch. I mean, I'm not going to pay to watch Corbin Burns. I'm paying to watch the guys who play for the Giants.
I don't even think starting
day.
Pitchers are going to exist in 3 years.
Well, the other thing, yeah, I mean, that's another one. And then the other one is
given 6 years to a starting pitcher. Like, the trend is pretty clearly that starting pitching does not matter.
Right. And then the other
until the playoffs. Tell me then when it worked. What did the Dodgers do?
I mean, and then the other thing, I mean, it's like, okay, you're gonna pay Corbin Burns, and it's just like, I mean, the Giants had the best, hottest pitcher in all of baseball in the second half of the year. His name was Blake Snell.
Gone.
Okay, guess what the Giants' record was in the second half of the year with the hottest pitcher in baseball who threw a no-hitter and was almost borderline unhittable. Guess what the Giants' record was in the second half of the year?
It's like 15 games under 500.
I think it was 500. I think they were 500.
Okay, fair enough.
But I mean, 500. 500. Yeah. They played 500 balls.
They locked in mediocrity.
This idea that, people are like, Krueger, they need pitching. Okay, they need pitching.
Sure, they need pitching. They need more than one.
But here would be my counter to that would be, okay, they need pitching. The Giants, you need everything. You need pitching, you need hitting, you need defense. They had Snell. He was great. And they were 500. So what are we talking about? And at the end of the day, it's like the Giants have Mason Black. The Giants have Landon Roop. The Giants have Kyle Harrison. The Giants
they have a decent farm system.
What's
they have
what's the guy's name that looks like a girl, sort of, who looks like he never shaves?
Birdsong?
Hayden Birdsong. They have Hayden Birdsong. But what they don't have is they don't have a big power hitting first baseman who's ready to step in and play. They have
I like this guy, Trevor McDonald. I wrote down the name Trevor McDonald. That might mean something to you. I like him.
Is a pitcher?
Yeah, he's a pitcher.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe Eldridge will be something in a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Cool.
But
put him next to this guy. Let this guy DH.
He's probably at least a year away.
This
and there's no
averages
guarantee.
43 home runs a year, Pete Alonso.
Yeah,
43.
Play one as the DH. And not only that, I mean, I've watched people wear giraffe hats. I've watched people wear panda hats. This guy's the polar bear. On just the polar bear hats in the dugout store, the Giants will pay for his salary.
Totally.
Just that alone. So I don't even know what
he's a really good player. He's not somebody who's coming in here as a savior, right? He's not a generational player. The Giants keep going for these generational players. Generational players don't want to be here. That's fine. Let them go wherever the hell they want. That's fine. Pete Alonso is a rock-solid player. You're going to get at least 2 or 3 good years out of him. His game should age just fine, right? It might tail off there when he's 33, 34. That's okay. But he's a big power hitter. You know, he's going to walk. He's going to hit home runs. Heaven forbid you have somebody like that on your roster in the modern game. Can the Giants claim that they have anybody like that? Oh, Matt Chapman. Yeah, for like 2 weeks, and then it's 4 weeks off, and then it's 2 weeks on. This dude averages 43 home runs a season. He had 53 as a rookie. He had 34 last year, and it was a down year. He still had a 2.6 WAR. He had 46 the year before that. He hits 100 RBIs.
The Giants don't produce this. I mean,
Correct.
The Giants produce Matt Cain, Tim Lincecum, Madison Bumgarner, Brian Wilson, Hayden Birdsong, Kyle Harrison, Landon Roop, Mason
100%.
Black, Logan Webb, Doval. I mean, the Giants produce arms. When's their run of awesome young position players? They got Posey and Belt and Sandoval in their championship run, but basically they don't produce bats.
When was the last
they
time
draft and develop pitching?
When was the last time there was somebody in the Giants lineup that the opposing team actually feared? Like, legitimately.
Yeah.
When was the last time there was somebody in that lineup when you're like, oh shit, we got to work around that? When was the last time one of the Giants got an intentional walk for being awesome? Instead of, it's guy on second and 2 outs, let's set up a double play or something. When was the last time someone was just like, well, I don't want to pitch to him?
Well, I mean, like, if you don't sign Corbin Burns, which you're not going to,
no,
you still might start Hayden Birdsong in his spot or Kyle Harrison in his spot. If you don't sign Polar Bear, your first baseman's Lamont Wade or Wilmer Flores.
Right. Oh, well, we can aggregate the Polar Bear, but not really, because there's an impact to having a player like that. I'm with you 100%. I would like
those people. The people that are out there saying, they're fine with Yaz. They're fine with Flores.
Yeah, that's all they'll ever
Wade.
be. They'll be fine. They'll never be good.
Oh
They'll
my
never be
God,
great.
you're kidding me.
Give me somebody with some thump. Give me somebody who's some box office. Give me a reason to go, oh, he's coming up in the next inning. I want to watch that.
When the Giants come to town, it's bye-bye, baby.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, baby. It's funny. I said getting the Polar Bears world's better than a long-term commitment with a second-year opt-out to Burns. And these Giants fans, no, they need pitching. Really? Pitching? They need pitching.
They need. Here's the problem. It's not a mutually exclusive thing. Yeah, they need pitching. You know what else they need? Like hitting and defense. And it's like Willy Adames is going to fix it. No one fears Willy Adames, and Willy Adames is going to be an immediate bust for the Giants. I mean,
let's be honest. I mean, these pitchers all of a sudden can be like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
My elbow, not quite right. Never to be seen from again.
Shohei Ohtani didn't pitch at all last year. He still went out there and hit.
A position player is pretty much going to play. I mean,
there's
always they could tear something, but pitchers get hurt, never to be heard from again. I mean, if you think about some of the worst deals ever, the Mike Hampton contract, some of those were ugly deals. I'm with you.
I gotta go.
And people say now he'd be terrible at Oracle. How about this? Here's why I would go for Pete Alonso, because the Giants are also trying to get Roki Sasaki, and Sasaki's going to come here if he sees the Giants they're building a team. And, if they're spending some money and doing something big. So doing doing something big to try to get Roki Sasaki to pick you over other teams is a viable idea. But to me, go get a guy like
they have the money. They should spend some money. I still believe that you have to build up an infrastructure of excellence, and that's going to take some time. But if you have to buy a couple of years of competency or above competency of excellence, and you have the opportunity to do it, you do it. They've constantly been shooting for the absolute best case scenario. But then, they get Matt Chapman, who was the second best, right? Oh, he's still hanging around. They had no problem giving him a long-term deal. It worked out for him. I got an idea. How about you put 9 competent baseball players on the field? Just do it once. Just try it out. See what happens. You're getting pretty close. Left side of your infield looks good. Imagine what happens if you have competency at first base. Imagine what happens if you had another good outfielder. Hey, now we're starting to get somewhere. Like, what's the downside? Oh, we're going to pay him all this money. Whatever. You were going to pay Corbin Burns how much money for what?
Right. Now he goes to the Diamondbacks, and he lives there, and so he's got a house there.
That's
so
great.
I'm
More
sure
power
it's
to
easy.
him. I'm glad he's happy. You know what?
I'll make a prediction.
He got what he wanted.
The Diamondbacks, before the end of that deal, will pay some of that money to send him elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's the same way they paid Madison Bumgarner and tried to get rid of him at the end. They're going to pay this guy, and they're going to get rid of him at the end because it's a bandbox. Tommy Huxley says, I exploit.
I don't even know what this means.
I tell you one and one and one make three. I'm the cult of personality.
It's clearly a song.
Quoting lyrics there?
Yeah.
Is it? I think
that's above our pay grade.
There you go. Once you get a lyrics, bro, I gotta go.
That's a good sign, Lair.
And that means we're gonna get out of here. I'm watching Miami right now against Iowa State on the Tube. It's a big college football day. There's like 6 games. There's also a couple NFL games. Yep. Dieter, what do you got cooking the rest of the day? And tell people if they want to follow you, where's the best place to find you? When will you be on the Leader next?
At Dieter and Hutch on YouTube. That's where we do our podcasts. And then I'll be on the Leader to Monday at 6 a.m., Tuesday at 6 a.m. So Lions super pregame, Lions postgame, effectively.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Better. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Thanks to Dieter. Thanks to all of you guys. And thanks to the people in the chat for the supers. Really appreciate that.
Yep. Have
a great rest of your holiday weekend. It is Saturday, December the 28th. New Year's Eve is just around the corner. So I really enjoy this time. I'm enjoying this time. And I will be there Monday. Of course, tomorrow I'm off the rest of today. I'll be off tomorrow because the Niners don't play. Monday, I will be on at 9 a.m. with Damon in the morning, and then I will be headed off to Levi's for Niners Lions. We'll do Niners can be our pregame, postgame, as well as the Krug show from Levi's Monday night. Hopefully, it'll be the big key. Don't get embarrassed. I don't think you're going to win. George Kittle almost said as much this week. He's like, he starts talking about we don't want to get embarrassed, and then he's like, well, we want to win every game, but it's like. Yeah, we get it, George.
I live every day like that, Larry. We're just trying not to get embarrassed out there.
Just don't get embarrassed. That's the key. For Dieter, I'm Larry. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful.